What's that crunching noise?
I would imagine it's a little paperwork from somebody. So maybe if everybody wants to mute, someone's kind of moving some things around inadvertently. Okay. Well, I'd love to start the meeting. Let me see. I just have some people. Okay. Someone's having a little problem getting in. Great. Well, let's start the meeting. We've got not the longest agenda. So I'm used to saying full agenda. So I'm hoping that we have an efficient agenda today, but I think we have a lot of important stuff. So all the same, I think it'll be a great meeting. Great to see everyone today. I thought just to give a quick summary, we're going to have our public safety session. We do have a small presentation around redistricting by our own one of our own members. And then we have the business session, which is comprised of an election. It's comprised, the main show, as we like to say, is our budget committee and our capital and budget expenses. Our capital and expense budget and priorities. And then we have a series of resolutions from BCI. So I think efficient, but all again, very, very important. So I want to see, I haven't got a chance. Today we had Deputy Inspector Yaguchi had said he would be joining us. Captain Gallagher could not, so he RSVP'd, and I don't know, I haven't been able to hear from Captain Zuber, but he has showed from time to time when that has happened. So I'm gonna look around for Deputy Inspector Yaguchi, or if he could speak out, if he hears me, we can jump right in. Let's see. Yeah.
Christian has his hand up.
Yeah, Christian.
Yeah, I just want to say a few words in regards to voting tonight. Some
Great.
people voted, some people already voted, and any votes that were cast up to this point have been deleted. This is not like the primary where you can vote early. You have to be present to vote at the appropriate time. So when the time comes, the votes will be enabled, and then you'll be able to vote at that point. Right now, voting is disabled. Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to keep an eye. I do not see Deputy Inspector Yaguchi, and if we don't, then what we'll do is we'll move on to the next agenda item, and if he joins us between now and then, we'll jump back in. If Mark and Christian, as we kind of get moving, see him jump in, perhaps you guys could text me as we do from time to time. Miranda, do you think that you'd be ready to jump in on your presentation and go first?
Yeah, if you can just give me a moment.
Great. Great. So what we'll do is we'll start, we'll move to sort of our number 2 item, which was the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission. We're going to get a presentation on the New York State Independent Redistricting process, and it is by one of our own board members, although she will explain her role, but she works there. And Miranda, why don't you take it over? And again, I think you're going to share your screen for a couple slides as well.
I am. Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Miranda Goodman-Rabb. As Stephen mentioned, I work at the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission. My role, my day job there is the Assistant Director of Engagement. So I'm here to talk to you all for briefly. Oh, Stephen, can you enable screen sharing, please?
Yes, thank you.
Great. So as Stephen mentioned, I'm just here to give you a quick overview of the redistricting process that is underway in New York that I'm sure some of you might know about already. Let's see if I can. Great.
Should work now.
Are we good now? Okay. So as I mentioned, I'm here with the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission. A little bit about redistricting overall and what the commission does. So as I'm sure many of you know, every 10 years, the entire country redraws its congressional lines. It's in the federal constitution. And additionally, it's in the state constitution that the state will redraw state legislative lines. That's the state Senate and the state assembly. In 2014, this process changed for the state of New York. It used to be that the legislature drew their own lines. And now there was an amendment that was voted into New York State Constitution that has put this process through the Independent Redistricting Commission. The commission is made up of 10 commissioners. So you can see them here. They all bring a really wide variety of experience to the commission, election law. One of our commissioners has, I think, 4 cycles of redistricting under his belt. Some are really involved in Albany politics, a wide variety of commissioners. Definitely take a look on our website, but it's a really impressive group that all know a lot about different communities throughout the state, which is really the point of this process. So really quickly, as I mentioned, 2014, this process began in terms of creating the commission. The commissioners were appointed throughout 2020 through 2021. This past spring, we got our funding. I started my job as well as so did our other staff. And this past summer, before we received this data from the Census Bureau, we held a listening tour throughout the state to hear from people before we had the data, just to see how people felt, because as I mentioned, this process happens once every 10 years, right? So we needed to check in with people. How do you feel about your lines? Tell us about your community. Has your neighborhood changed? Who do you have things in common with? Things like that. Currently, or I guess 2 or 3 weeks ago, we released our draft plans, which I'll talk more about later in a few minutes, but we've released our draft plans. And the phase of the process that we're in now is that we're really seeking public comment. We want people to look at our plans, to look at our drafts and tell us what they think about it. And then we'll go back, improve upon our drafts and take another look at them, and then we'll submit them to the legislature for approval. So just a little bit, as I'm sure a lot of you know, New York did lose one congressional seat from the national apportionment. That is because our population growth, while it did grow and we are past 20 million people now, it did not grow at the other rate that other states did. And while this is disappointing, just to put it in context, New York has been losing seats ever since, I think, 1951. So our population just has not kept up, which I think is important just in the context of why the census is so important and sort of, how we matter to the rest of the country, right? One other thing that you will see, so in November, I'm sure many of you plan to vote for mayor, public advocate, et cetera, city council. There will be the first ballot on your, the first ballot amendment rather, on your ballot will be ballot measure 1, which is a host of changes to the redistricting process. Some of these are simply codifying into the state constitution practices that are already happening, such as the reallocation of incarcerated people. So to formally have them be counted at their last known place of residence rather than their location that they are incarcerated at. It removes some kind of inaccurate, not useful language surrounding Native populations as well. It would change the redistricting timeline because as it stands, the date that the maps would be, ratified by the legislature at are, I think it's like February and then April. And so the amendment would give people the option to move that number up. And again, just in my official capacity, I'm not here to advocate for or against this ballot measurement. I just want everyone to know about it. So as I mentioned, New York population did go up, but not enough to keep our congressional seat apportionment. A lot of counties in New York did see growth, while some did lose some. Of course, not all counties are created equal, right? So there's 62 counties, 39 of which lost population, but 23 of which gained population. And of course, population growth in Brooklyn and Queens, for example, if Brooklyn grew by 9%, that is a significant amount of population growth. So I encourage you all to read through all this, but I know we have a long meeting tonight, so I won't take you through that for too much. But as I mentioned, we did hear from about 300 New Yorkers over the summer before we even received the data. We received, thousands of pages of testimony from them. You can watch our public meetings on our website. So that takes me to where we are now, which is, as I mentioned, we're now embarking on the public hearing phase of the redistricting process. So we've published all of our maps on our website. And the real reason that I'm here, of course, is to educate you all about the redistricting process, but most importantly, to ask for your input, right? The Redistricting Commission can't do this without public participation. It is the difference between us and the way it's been done in the past is that we want to hear from people, and we're actively seeking input. So these are the 14 locations that we will be having public hearings at. The public hearing for New York County for Manhattan will be at Hunter College on November 10th. I will send that information to Steve and we can put it in the newsletter, but I really hope to see all of you involved. And I know, part of the reason myself and my colleagues are presenting at all these community boards is that community boards are actively, civic engaged people, and anyone who's listening to this meeting, whether or not you're on the board, you probably care about your neighborhood and, your community as well. And so we really need to hear from people. We want to know, tell us about your community. What are the places that keep you connected? What do you have in common with your neighbors? What other neighbors, do you share common interests with, right? That can be faith, that can be language, that can be industry, that can be a shared subway line, right? I mean, it really, what keeps people in common will change throughout the state, but we just really want to hear from you. So that is it for my presentation. And if I can just say, the website is, our website is open 24 hours for public comment. So we have a variety of ways. You can send us testimony, you can send us a letter, you can send us, you can draw us a map, and that can be as simple as taking a Google Map screenshot and using your phone and, drawing things with your finger if you want. It can be a high level redistricting in you, where you can create your own maps, anything along those lines. So I'm happy to take questions if I have just a minute, and yeah.
Thanks, Miranda. And well said, like a fellow community board member, that we are very involved, aren't we? Let's take one or two questions, and then what I can do is if there's a handful more, we can, I'll connect you with Miranda. There are 2 hands raised and 1 attendee. So let's have Jay, then Mark, and then I'll pick the attendee if we can, and then we'll move on to the next section.
Yeah, Miranda, the last step in the process of approving the new districts is approval by both houses of the legislature, correct? What happens if they don't approve them?
Yes, that is correct. So we have to submit our plans to the legislature by January 15th. If the ballot amendment passes, that date is changed to January 1st. Then we have some time to present the legislature with another final draft. And I think that deadline is in February, but if the ballot amendment passes, that date also changes to January 15th.
What happens if in the final analysis, the legislature doesn't approve it? Does it go, is there a process for the courts to resolve it? What's the alternative?
I don't totally know exactly what will happen, because our hope is that, this commission was created for a reason. But I know that it's like within the legislature has the power at that point.
So could, if you could find out or let us know what in many states, if the legislature can't reach an agreement on the maps, it ends up in court.
Right. Of course. And that is, of course, what's happened in New York State in the past. I'm sure you're aware.
Well, it used to be a legislative redistricting commission, and for many years the Senate was Republican and the Assembly was Democratic, but most of the time they reached an agreement. My last question is it correct that New York lost its 1 congressional seat because it was 89 votes short in the census?
That is correct. So I think
It's
all of us will be,
unbelievable.
it is historically low. As far as I'm aware, I don't know that that's typical. But I think that's a good motivator for all of us to make our friends and family fill out the census in 10 more years.
Is that being challenged by anybody?
Not that I'm aware of, but that's, we're at the point in the stage where we're accepting the data as it is. And, we have to move forward so that elections and, the redistricting process can move forward. So I'm not aware.
Okay.
Thanks, Jay. Mark.
Sorry, I'm taking notes as I'm doing this. So I will resist the temptation to offer here the testimony about some of the crazy districts that are drawn in our very corner of the state, and instead say that when Miranda and her team presented at the Civic Engagement Commission, one of the things that came up in that discussion, and one which I think our board might want to think about, is the criteria by which one decides which parts of which communities get a line drawn through it. And in particular, there was testimony about NYCHA developments where certain, like one half of a NYCHA development would be in one council or state senate or whatever district, and then another half of the same NYCHA development would not be. My point is that there is a value judgment somewhere about who gets cut in half and who doesn't, and maybe CB7 wants to think about having a resolution or testimony about expressing our values as to who would be no one wants to be cut in half in their community for sure, but maybe it would be within our purview to think about and comment on among the many different folks that might be cut in half, which would be more consistent with our core values and which would not. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, if I can just add really quickly, and I'll sign up to tie everything up with a bow. I really appreciate that, Mark, because I think that's exactly why I'm here. Is I want everyone to think about how this affects your community, how this affects the communities around you, and also how you can make your findings known, right? I think we really do read the testimony. The commissioners pour over it. I promise it doesn't just go into an ether. This is a chance, happens once every 10 years, and this is a chance for all of our community's voices to be heard. And I just, I don't want that to, be taken lightly. It's a really exciting, big process, and the comments do get read and internalized. And if you know anyone else that you want to send me over to, we're happy, myself and our small but mighty staff, we're making our way throughout the state to talk to different community groups. We'll talk to anyone. We want everyone involved in this process. So please feel free to reach out to me if you want us to come talk to another group or church or whatever it is. So thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Miranda. And if anybody has questions, I'm sure that I can facilitate them, either sending them over or putting you guys together. I do see that we have Deputy Inspector Yaguchi on. If he can get ready for a moment, I did want to do one thing before, which is sort of a public service state message. Jason Haber has done some volunteering in the neighborhood, and he wanted to make an announcement to the largest group. So I wanted to do so. Jason, I made you, you can speak now if you want to.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be with the board again. This is now 20 years on since the first time I went before CB7, and Linda Alexander and I still haven't aged. Right, Linda? So as many of you know, every year my family gives out Thanksgiving turkeys over at the Bernie Wall Center, and we're doing it again this year. Last year we had challenges with COVID. This year we'll have challenges, some with COVID, but also with distribution and supply issues. Like everything else, turkeys are in limited quantities. So I'm not sure how many people will be helping this year. We give out between 300 and 500 turkeys, which can feed a couple of thousand people, about 3,000. We're trying again this year, but we can always use volunteers. And so if you're interested in helping out on Tuesday, November 23rd, we could use a few hands. Just drop me an email, jasonhaber@gmail.com. Or if you just like to come by and be there for the day, we'd always love having people in the neighborhood there. So if you have any questions, you can reach me offline.
Thank you, Jason. And also our district manager, Michelle Booker, is on the line. If you want us to either put on the website or help promote, or if any questions come in, we can help facilitate as well. And I'll
Great, thank you.
Tonight after this meeting.
Perfect.
Great. Okay, if we can now jump back to the public safety session, I think Captain, or I should say Deputy Inspector Yaguchi is on the line now, and I was hoping you would give your report. No, he's on. Somebody's on.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, we're doing great. Good evening. And as always, thank you for joining us.
Of course. I did reach out to, or I spoke to Captain Zuber. He is unable to make it. So I will do my best to represent the two commands of the Upper West Side. So just in terms of the 24th precinct, we are currently in the last 4 weeks, we're experiencing a little bit of an uptick in crime, 102 index crimes for the 28-day period. That's compared to 74 index crimes last year. So little bit of an increase. The categories that we're seeing increases in are robberies are up 10 versus 7, felony assault 17 versus 4, and grand larceny is 49 versus 32. Last Tuesday night, we took a shooting at a 58 just in the rear of 589 Amsterdam Avenue. 3 people were shot. Detectives are currently investigating the incident, but certainly that definitely got some attention from everybody in the neighborhood. We've had really in August and September somewhat of an uptick in the shooting incidents. For the most of the summer in June and July, we were able to keep it to a minimum, especially compared to last year. Though at the end of August, on August 30th, we took a double shooting on at 104 in Columbus, and like I said last week, we took a triple shooting at 589 Amsterdam Avenue. I can, of course, answer any other questions that anybody else may have in regards to that or any other issues.
Great. Do we have, I'm going to start with the public first in this session and then go to community board members. Christian, do we have any public that signed up for this session?
No.
Okay, we do have somebody raising their hand. Erica Gerson, I'm going to allow you to talk and I'll let you go first and then we'll go to board members. And Eric, you are allowed to talk.
Hi, I'm sorry, my Zoom cut out for a second during the presentation. But one of the questions that the public has had with all of these.
And I believe it cut out during that question. So Erica, are you still there or did you drop off by accident? Okay, I'm going to go, if there's any other community, I'm going to go to our board members. If Erica comes back on, I will try and let her ask her question. I will start with Courtney.
Hi. Yeah, I was just wondering, especially since we had one the other night here on 72nd in Columbus, which I know is the 20th, whether there are any thoughts as to what's going on, why we've seen this, knowing that we had some quiet versus last year, whether there's any kind of link or connection of why we're starting to see some more now, and what's the plan for handling it? Because obviously it's a little intimidating to be seeing all of these popping up in the last few weeks.
I think like any, whether there's a crime increase or crime decrease, I think it's always hard to kind of pinpoint what's causing it. I think if you go back like a decade ago and people were talking about how crime had decreased, I think the police had their thoughts about why crime was going down. You had the economists who thought, they had a finger on why it was going down. So I think if you ask different people, you're going to get different explanation as to why crime is up or whatnot. From our view, I mean, it's hard to tell. We have our thoughts, obviously, but I think there's other people that may counter it. What we're seeing a lot of times is perhaps sometimes the same individuals being arrested, right? So the people that are involved in our shootings, and I can speak the shooting incidents here in the last 2 years in the 24th precinct, they seem to be repeat offenders, people who have multiple gun arrests in the past couple of years, and whether they're initially kept in jail or they're being let out right away, either because of the bail set is not high enough. Sometimes bail is set, but they're able to meet it. You also have less serious incidents, I should say, less violent incidents, property crimes, burglaries, robberies. Also, same thing. If you look at their arrest record, it's pretty predictable in the sense that they have prior history. And that question about whether those people should be out on the streets, they should be in prison or jail longer or not. That's a debate that that's not. We just make the arrest, and whether or not those people should be out on the streets or not, I think that's a conversation to be had by the community at large. But we are seeing individuals, for the most part, I should say, the same individuals kind of committing crimes. So that's just the view from us. I don't have anything statistical. I can't correlate one thing to the other. But that's what we're seeing from our end, is that we're seeing the same individuals kind of reappear, whether it is shooting incidents, whether it's burglaries, or other serious crimes.
Thank you. Rich Robbins.
Yep. My monthly question, don't want to forget about street safety. Just wondering how things are with traffic, both with collisions, injuries, any further word on the fatalities from about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and also just where we are with giving out tickets to motorists.
In terms of, I know we had a fatality at 99th Street in Amsterdam. I don't have an update for you on that investigation. In terms of the traffic numbers, they are relatively steady for the 28-day period. I know one of the numbers that we focus on a lot are pedestrians. We don't, that they're down actually compared to the past year. I know I was talking with my traffic sergeant today. He was kind of alarmed or concerned about a high number of bicycle collisions along Central Park West, especially. I think we have like 8 for the past 28-day period, which is a high number and unusual number, or I should say a high proportion of those numbers are happening on Central Park West. So one of the things that we talked about today is kind of focusing our attention over on Central Park West, just because we're seeing that uptick in bicycle collisions, and particularly on Central Park West.
Do you know, are those bikes with motorists or bikes with pedestrians? And do we know
there was one, I can tell you, I was looking at the accident reports myself today. One was a bicyclist and a bicyclist. One was a vehicle trying to make a left turn as the bicyclist is coming southbound. So it's a mix, but mostly it's motor vehicles and other bicyclists.
And are most of the bikes heading southbound?
There was one that I would have to get back to you on. I can tell you there was one instance where the bicyclist was going south, but not using the bike lane, but and so he was going south on the regular roadway when a car was trying to make a left turn onto one of the side streets.
Yeah, and there's no
Thank you, Rich. Rich, we got to move on. We've got a lot of hands raised. I appreciate it. I will connect you or take any questions, and I'll forward them on to the deputy inspector. We've got a bunch of other hands raised. We want to make sure we're judicious and allow everyone to speak. Let's go with Doug.
I thank you, Deputy Inspector Iguchi. Good to see you here. We really appreciate you joining our meetings. I just, obviously get a lot of concern about the recent shootings on 8-9 in Amsterdam. And also I know it's not within the confines of the 2-0, but last night's shooting on 72nd Street. Questions that have been asked of my friends, family, and constituents are those crimes, and perhaps it's too early to tell, or you can't speak about it, are they gang related? Are they drug deal related? Or are they, is it something that general civilians should be even more concerned about? I know that's sort of a question that I have. All shootings are bad, obviously, but can you characterize them a little bit?
Yeah, so I can't talk too much, and I know there's a lot of people that are frustrated by that answer. I've spoken to people who obviously they live around the corner, the shooting happens, 3 people get shot, and they want to know a lot more about what caused it. And I wish I could say more, but we are talking about ongoing investigations, and the detectives are in the process of trying to interview people, and anything that I put out in public taints potential witnesses. So I can't say too much. What I can say is, which relates to some of the questions that I answered before, is that when we are doing these investigations into these shootings, what we're seeing is individuals that seem to reappear. In that sense, they involve individuals that are up to other things, if that's the proper way to put it. In that sense, it kind of is like that the victim, and not to say that this is okay, but there's some prior dispute going on between the victim and the shooter. I don't know if that's reassuring in the sense that that the shooter is going after a specific individual. But I know when 3 people get shot and you live a block away, I don't know if there's anything that I can really say to make people feel better about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your answer.
So we have, we have 4 hands up. We're going to call on those 4, and that's going to be the closing of this session. And I think I've mentioned this in the past. What I'd ask, particularly around board members, is if when we start a session, if everyone can raise their hand, it's so that we can, it helps me manage. And at some point, we're going to do this each time. We're going to kind of close it out. And if you raise your hand, then I'm going to, you know, at the last minute, I can't guarantee that will all work out the best way. So if you want to speak, I do ask that you sort of put your hands up in the beginning of each session. I'm going to jump over back to the to a couple attendees that raised their hands, and then I'll come back. I see Susan's hand is the only now. So there is going to be 3 people, 2 attendees. We'll close with Susan, and then we're going to close this session. So Megan, I'm going to, or Megan Martin, as I should say, can allow you to speak, and you can speak.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much. Thank you, Deputy. Really Detective. Thank you so much for giving me this time. So just as a parent of 2 small children, obviously the gun violence is extraordinarily concerning, but also the robberies that have been going on in the neighborhood, and this has been going on for now a few years. I know we've touched upon this quite a few times, and I think you discussing the recidivism issues, you know, that we all feel, the seeing people going through this again and again, you guys arresting the people committing the crimes, coming back out and doing the same thing. You know, we have reached out, you know, community members to the stores to say, okay, well, if we can't, as a public, stop this, you know, can private security be somehow invoked? You know, how do we feel as a community get to feel more safe shopping, walking around our neighborhood, that people who feel that they can continue to commit crime without any repercussions? Because when we broach the subject with our elected officials, they continue to say bail reform is not the problem, but we obviously know that that is not the truth. And I really don't think that anyone can really look this anymore in the face and continue to lie to themselves. So, you know, is this a public-private partnership? Is this going to be community efforts of, you know, having a public safety officer? I mean, what can we do as a community to, you know, sort of help this along to stop these situations?
So I think people, I don't want to sit here and say bail reform is the problem. I think there is, there's a variety of issues. I think bail reform, I'm not going to sit here and say bail reform is the issue that, you know, these robberies keep happening. I mean, just as a side note, we are even with our robbery numbers compared to last year. So, but I do get kind of the sense, and we hear this not just in this forum, but at community council meetings and also in sit downs with business owners, that people are not feeling, you know, whether it's robberies or other quality of life issues, that they're not feeling safe. But the only thing that I can tell you is that I think it's important for everyone to be involved. And when I say involved, I talk about voting and basically voting people or officials that feel represent or represent policies or will put in policies that that reflects or your concerns. I have to be really careful here because, you know, my job is to not get political, but just relay the facts to you. The facts are that, you know, just, and I get the sense, listen, we take 3 shootings. I don't expect anybody to feel good about that, but our robbery numbers are comparable to last year. So when you think about that, I just want to make sure that we're relaying the facts to you correctly. I see in the chat someone's asking, hey, what's our robbery numbers for 2019, which is a good question given the fact last year was arguably an outlier. So compared to last year, we're actually down in robberies as well, about 15%. But if you go back 5 years, you're up in robberies about 10%. So, you can take what you want for those numbers, but if you look at the shooting numbers compared to 2 years ago, we are up. So I just think it's the only thing I can tell you is to be involved, because the people that are putting these policies into place, whether they're good, bad, are your elected officials. And I'm not saying one way or the other, whether they're good policies or bad policies. I think that's for everybody else to decide. And there's different reasons why crime goes up, crime goes down. Part of it is policing, part is what we do on a day-to-day basis. Part of it is other stuff going on in society that I certainly am not an expert on.
Well, I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
I know that's a non-answer, but I just want to, I just think everyone being involved, I think is important. And whether it's electorally or in forums like this, listen, we try to take the concerns that come up in these forums and at community council meetings and other meetings, at Build a Block meetings, and we do try to directly address your situation. When we look at the robbery numbers, yeah, they're comparable to last year, 10 versus 7. But the ones that we're looking at are the street robberies, and the ones that we have for the 28-day period for the last 4 weeks. We have one on 109th Street, we have one on 90th Street, we have one on Central Park West, and then we try to see where the patterns are and try to deploy our cops accordingly.
Thank you, Deputy Inspector. Thank you, Megan. Peter, I made you, I believe I made you public so you can speak.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I wanted to just say thank you to Inspector Yaguchi. I've seen the increase in numbers of patrols that are out walking in the streets, and really appreciate that, given that people are concerned about the increase in violence, the increase in gun use, and also around the speeding cars and speeding bikes. And I want to just say how much how good it is to have the patrols out there in uniform and engaging with people. And I'll make a quick pitch for getting registration for bikes, because bike accidents are not getting reported, and it's impossible to get good, accurate information because bikers are acting without with impunity in terms of on the streets and in the bike lanes. And a lot of people have expressed problems with that. And the last thing would be asking about ways of reducing the violence in the gun ownership or guns in the neighborhood, if there's anything that can be done on that. That's a question. Sorry.
With the gun violence, it's our cops have done a lot of work. I know the 20th precinct, I think last week or the week before that, they took a gun off the street. During the month of August, the 24th precinct took 3 guns off the street, 3 gun arrests, I should say, 3 separate incidents. PSA 6 in response to a shots fired incident on 2 weeks ago, they were able to arrest an individual and also take 2 guns off the street in the process. So what I keep talking to our cops about is, given how many guns have been taken off the street this year compared to years past, it's unbelievable to me that guns keep reappearing. At the 3 shooting, the incident last Tuesday where we had 3 people shot, we had at least 2 shooters at that incident. So that's concerning. So given how many gun arrests that we've had this year, which is an increase compared to prior years, the fact that guns keep popping up, I think is a huge concern. And obviously that, I think, goes into other parts in terms of trying to address it. So, but we're trying our best We know where the shootings are. That's where we put our cops. I know anybody who's tuned in to this monthly forum has heard me talk about Douglas and the shooting incidents that surround that area. It's been an area of focus for us, the 24th Precinct, in conjunction with PSA 6. And given that deployment, we've had some luck in getting some guns off the streets. And hopefully that has led to some incidences in some of the shootings that could have happened. But what we're seeing is that despite that work, there's still a lot of guns out there, unfortunately.
Thank you, Deputy Inspector. So we have to start to bring this session to a close, but we're going to go back to the community board members, as we said, and we're going to have Susan answer a question.
Thank you, Stephen. Deputy Inspector, thank you so much for your time and thank you for your service. Thank you. My question is about a specific intersection where I live, 71st and Broadway, also known as the bow tie of death. The bikes are going everywhere. I feel like I'm in a game of Frogger when I walk across the street. It's just unbelievable. I would like to make a request to have some sort of enforcement task there to just take a look. It doesn't even have to be in the daytime or the nighttime. Any time of day would be great. Could somebody please have a special group come and watch what's going on in that intersection? It is terrifying. That's it. Thank you.
And this is just a perspective from pedestrians,
Yes.
bike point of view, car vehicles.
It's the bicycles. Electric bikes, regular bikes, they're everywhere. They're on the sidewalk. They're going every direction. E-bikes, no lights, no licenses, nothing. And I think someone mentioned a suggestion. Peter Arnson suggested perhaps registration for bicycles would be good. I do not see why we couldn't make some more revenue off of regular bicycles being registered. Every other two-wheel or every other wheeled vehicle has got a registration. That would be a great source of revenue. We're raising money on congestion pricing. Why not do that with bicycles and have them registered and have to get some proof that they understand the rules of the law? It's the Wild West. This intersection just epitomizes what the problem is in our district. Bicycles everywhere. I actually watched a delivery guy with a wagon in tow going southbound on the west side of Broadway, heading south from 72nd Street to 71st Street, and then making a right turn through the light. He almost took out a woman with a baby carriage. It's terrifying. My husband would appreciate this because he's tired of hearing me scream at them. And as a side note, in Central Park, if we could perhaps consider putting in some speed bumps, because the traffic lights in Central Park are actually not optional. It's the law for all vehicles to stop at the traffic lights, whether there's someone coming or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. I know that some of this is not quite in Deputy Inspector's area, but perhaps you can comment.
I will relay it to Captain Zuber.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So the last panelist, we'll have Peter Sampton. Peter, did you raise your hand to speak? And then we're closing out this session.
Right. I have a. Who's speaking?
There's some walkie-talkie in the back of Deputy Inspector Yaguchi, so we just have to enter it. So if you want to just speak over it, it'd be ideal.
Okay, I want to talk for a minute about fire hydrants. I live in a house right in front of behind a fire hydrant, and every single day of the week, except Sundays, there's somebody parked there, usually a delivery truck, but often a car is parked and nobody's in there, and it could be parked there for 6 or 8 hours and has never gotten a ticket. And I think it's quite dangerous. I've seen it on my block on 88th Street on 2 hydrants there. People are just parking all the time now. They've gotten used to the fact that it becomes a free parking spot. And I haven't seen any police or meter maids come by to give tickets in several months.
Great. Peter, do you want to, do you want to give a little more specifics, where you're located between
88th
what
Street, West
between what
88th Street,
avenues?
between Amsterdam and Columbus.
Right.
That's right north of 86th Street. My house is right opposite a fire hydrant. And every morning I get up, there's a truck there. And sometimes the same truck is there for hours, locked without anybody in there.
Thank you.
You said 88th Street?
88th Street,
Okay.
between Amsterdam and Columbus.
Okay. Got it.
Hydrants are on the north side of the street.
Okay.
Great. Well, it's duly noted, and you know, if there's any follow-up, we'll continue to monitor. We're going to close this session. If there's any other questions, people can either post them in the chat. They can also send them to our office, and we will coordinate and get answers from our deputy inspector. But thank you so much, as always, for coming. We had a very robust session. So as you can see, people very much appreciate your time and your answers. And I myself here in the community board appreciate you showing up and coming every month.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our business session. I want to make just two quick comments, and then I'm going to have Christian. There's been some questions about voting, and I want you to clarify it once again. The one thing I'd like to reiterate what I mentioned in the last session, did this at steering, and I'm going to request that when we get into a session, if everyone could raise their hands digitally to the best of their ability in the beginning, it's my request and very helpful. It allows me to manage the meeting effectively, both in time and making sure everyone can speak. So some people have gotten into things last minute. I'm about to move on. They say, I raise my hand, but I can't always see it. We all know what our screens look like. So I'm going to sort of manage it that way. And at some point, I'm going to say, that's the last person. We're going to close it. And if you put your hand up afterwards, you may not be able to be in that session. And so if you want to guarantee speaking, please do so in the beginning. Small personal note, which I said during steering, I've got a little bit of a tweak back, so I got to stand up a bit. So if you see me turn my screen off from time to time, it's not that I'm bored. It's just that I got to stand up and stretch a little bit. I try to keep my video on the entire time, but I'm going to have to, sitting down for long periods of time is not the best thing to do. So I'm going to do that.
I think you're watching the Yankees game.
If I start getting up at 8:05,
8:08.
But I did say this at steering, so I believe I'm covered. So thanks. And then I wanted, Christian, I did get a couple texts and emails about voting. There's some new members. Perhaps somebody said they had a problem getting into their sheet. Could you just, remind and walk through that process? And if anybody has any questions, they can answer. But perhaps a refresher and a reminder would be helpful for everyone.
The main issue has been because several people voted ahead of time. I cleared all those votes, and I also disabled the voting sheets, so that's why you are not able to use them yet.
Okay.
So
I assume you're going to eminently re-enable them.
Exactly. Once we're ready to vote, the voting sheet will be enabled, and you may have to refresh your screen for it to work. Okay.
So again, just to summarize, if you weren't able to get on your voting sheet, that may be true. We're going to refresh that now. You should be able to. If you have a problem, I don't know how many people understand, but you may have to sort of close out your browser or close it out and open it up. That's sort of refreshing it, or some people know you can refresh it in the top right corner, but you may have to refresh it. We'll also keep an eye on the chat, Christian and I, as we kind of move forward. And if for any reason we need to talk to someone, we will. But hopefully I did get a couple, so hopefully that helps. So with that, I want to move into our first item on the business session, and we'll have Josh Cohen, who is chair of our election committee.
Thank you, Stephen. In the interest of time, I think it's best that we just move ahead to the vote, because all of the elections are uncontested, but we do need to make it a formal election, and we do need to have a majority to proceed. So if Christian could make everybody's voting sheet live.
Yeah, they're live now.
Okay, and if everybody could vote, and if we could say everybody have the vote within 15 minutes, then we can make sure we have a majority, and we can announce the victor, which we already know, but for for the record. So
Josh,
if we
do
could
you
do
want to
that,
just remind everyone it's sort of two, just who they're voting for? Some people maybe
Yes.
two may think they're choosing.
Yeah,
some of
I'm
them.
still not getting in, just an FYI, and I've refreshed my browser.
just
Me too.
I can't get in either.
You may have to close your browser and open it again then.
I recommend exiting the window and then getting it from the email. That's how I did it.
I tried that.
I just used the link and I was able to get in.
Steve, I got Peter's voting sheet.
Don't worry about that. Just
So did I.
Just vote?
Just change it to your name and put in your information.
Okay, thanks.
Just a reminder that it's Steve for chair, Doug and Andrew for vice chair, and Beverly and Seema for secretary. And for chair, you need to pick one. For vice chair, you need to pick a first and a second. And for secretary, you need to pick a first and a second. Any questions? Good luck, everybody.
Thanks. I'm going to pause a little bit. Some people are refreshing and see. We'll keep the session open as making sure everyone can make these adjustments. Is everyone moving in a direction of success? And if we feel so,
No. The message, I'm still getting the message that the form is no longer accepting responses. I've closed my browser 4 times.
Maybe you're using the resolution for the one. Make sure you're using one for the election.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Yep.
Okay. What are we supposed to be
My
using?
brain's not working.
Sorry.
What are we
Supposed to be using the election one. So right now it's the election. So there's 2 sheets today. That's just 2 sheets.
Voting sheet.
There's 2 sheets. One is a voting sheet and one is a resolution sheet. And we are on the voting sheet right now.
Where are we to find our security code?
I'm not getting in. I've got Peter Sampton's too, and I still can't get in.
Okay, I will send you the link to the chat right now. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, if you see Peter Sampton, just change it to your name.
Christian, where would I find my security code?
It was on the email. I'll send it. I'll send it to you directly in the text.
Yeah, man, it's not working.
Christian, it's Roberta. I can't. It takes me to a Google Doc and it won't open for me.
Right. We got a problem.
Okay, I'll send the link to both of you in a moment.
Can we just vote? I thought since all the votes are there's nobody running against. Could we all just raise our virtual hand and vote up or down?
I would say that would be the best way to go. It seems at this point with the technical difficulties we're having.
The only problem would be whether it's first or second vice chair, but I would recommend that we leave Andrew as first vice chair and Doug as second vice chair, and we all just vote by hand, if that's okay with Andrew and Doug.
Let me ask, I think that Richard may have had to leave early, so I'll defer to, because he had sent me a note. Shelley, if you can stand in from a parliamentarian perspective, get that out. Is that acceptable to you? And does that work?
Given this unusual circumstance, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we still have to report our vote at the point, but we
Right.
could take that up tomorrow.
Correct. So
I
let's
call the question.
second.
Second.
So let's get a raise of hands, virtual hands for
Okay. So
Stephen Brown.
are we voting for all 5? Are we voting for the block of 5 in the way?
Yes.
that-
Yes.
All 5.
Okay.
We're bundling
So
it.
Bev, you're going to help me and we're going to vote for the block of 5. So those who are supporting the 5, the way Roberta said it, with, I think, remaining, I think Doug is the second and Andrew is the first vice chair. If you can raise your hand now, we will do voting.
Okay, we have at the moment 35.
Let's just wait it out. because
Give it
it's
a moment.
vacillating a bit. So let's remember, this is only for community board members, for some people that have came on. Bev, I'm raising my physical hand.
Okay,
Is
that's
there-
so
Is there
we're up
anybody
to,
else raising their physical hand or want to speak? Because we have and please hold your hands because it's toggling back and forth between 37 and 38. So vote and hold. Okay, so that's
Okay,
37.
38. 38, including you.
Thank you. Christian, can you lower the thing? Thank you. For those, let's take it down. Nobody vote again. Let's hold off.
So anybody opposed to the way Roberta proposed it? We have one hand up, and that is Ken. Anybody?
Okay. Any physical or verbals?
Anybody else opposed?
No, we're okay.
Abstain?
Anybody abstaining?
Morena.
Great. And well, now I see two. So if we can try and vote right away, I just want to make sure there's two hands up now for abstaining. We'll close that. Christian, if you can lower them. And if we can have for cause, I don't know why that would be for cause for this. Okay, 0 for cause. So Bev, do you want to read that vote?
38 to 1 to 2 to 0. Motion carries.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Josh, anything else you want to do before we close this out? Or
I mean, there wasn't much to do, but we did have an election committee of Barbara Adler, Susan Schwartz, and Benjamin Wu. Thank you for all your help. It was really a tough one this year.
Well, thank you. I know you've taken it on every year, and you know, obviously it was a pretty straightforward one, but you do volunteer your time, so thank you very much. And
May the Yankee game not be as much of a nail biter.
It's wishful thinking, Shelley.
Thank
I'll wait
you.
the nails as long as somebody wins, but we'll leave it at that. Okay, thank you very much. So let's move on.
Will we be able to vote tomorrow? Will there be a way to, so we can record our votes?
I would say do it tonight.
It's probably easier if we just, because you know, everybody, if you record the votes that abstained and voted against, and then everybody else they voted for, so that would be the
No, I
easiest
think-
way to figure it out.
If I could jump in, I think that Christian includes on his regular voting sheet a couple of extra lines for potential votes. I think this should be one of them because it is correct that we're supposed to have a paper record of each person's vote, and that's the way we do it. So we should probably make extra resolution number 1 to be this resolution in lieu of the other paper, the secret ballot or the quasi-secret ballot. I think that's the smart way to do it. What do you think, Stephen?
No, that works. Do we want to then all see if our resolution seats are working? So, you're going to have to then open up your resolution digital sheets, and let's wait a few more
I
moments.
was able to send
make
my
sure everyone can
regular
get in.
voting sheet in, believe it or not.
Yep, me too.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was that, Andrew? You're having a problem with the resos now?
No, I was able to send in my regular voting sheet for the officers. That worked for me.
Me too.
We have
Yeah,
28
works for me as well.
we have
Shelley,
28 responses on those.
That's
For
right.
those-
let's all stop talking. Let's all stop. We're going to get organized. Shelley, we had a vote over the Zoom. Is that formal or is it required to have a?
I believe we also have to have the required in addition.
Okay.
So we could put that on our voting sheet, our resolution voting sheet.
So even though you voted, we're gonna make the voting sheet moot at this point. Whether you voted, whether you didn't vote, that's a moot sheet. We're gonna move on. We'll give you direction when you get into the resolution sheet. So why don't we all now, just as we speak, get into our resolution sheets, because we're gonna vote in a little bit. And if anybody has any problems, and Christian, if you want to give direction on which one you want to be the voting line, and have everyone start the first vote on the resolution sheet. If you already voted in the other way, please re-vote. But Christian, do you want to give some?
On the resolution sheet, we will use.
I can't find the resolution sheet, Christian.
I'll send you the link in a moment.
Thank you.
At the bottom of the resolution sheet, there is 2 entries. One says resolution 1 and resolution 2. We use resolution 1 for this vote.
Does that work for everybody?
I don't know yet.
Well, you're gonna
Great,
have to-
it's a great
Robert.
solution.
It is.
Can you send me the link to it?
So Melissa needs a link and Robert needs a link. Remind everyone that your security code is in the email.
Right.
So
We're on the resolution sheet. It's the first resolution. That's what Christian.
Okay, I'm just waiting for it, Christian.
Yes, give me a second.
So there's, as you're doing it, I'm just going to keep giving instructions. There's a spot, it's called new resolution 1, that now becomes voting. If you voted yes, you should vote yes. If you voted no, you should vote no. If you abstain, you should vote abstain. And if you vote not eligible, not eligible. You would have a security code. That security code is in the email. You'll need that when you finalize the vote at the end.
Who sent the email with the security code? Because I don't think I got it.
Christian, can you resend
Yeah.
both Melissa's and Robert's?
Thank you.
So what I'm going to do is, I haven't heard anything. Let's move on into the next session, and then Robert and Melissa will double check with you afterwards to make sure that you got it between the 2 sessions, because maybe email can sometimes take a little while to get across. So we're going to move on to the next session, which is our budget committee. Roberta Seamer, our chair, and we're going to talk about our capital budget and our expense priorities for the year 2023.
Okay, we're gonna start with the capital, and I'm going to make a couple of corrections on the capital sheet, but we'll do that in a minute. First, I want to thank the budget committee. We worked very hard. Beverly and I spent a lot of time putting all the priorities into the 2 documents. We asked each committee to focus on their priorities using the 3 main priorities of CB7, which are 1, affordable housing, 2, education and youth programs, 3, social services. We also took into account the pandemic, the fact that 25% of our community is food insecure, and that 20% of our community are seniors. Bev and I are going to take notes during this session. We're asking that people who were not at steering get to speak first. And there's a 2-minute limit. In the final DNS, there will be more information about each item. It will include why, where, who supports it, stakeholder information. For this purpose, we didn't want to write a novel. So we tried to identify each item. If it was simple, we just put 1 or 2 words. For it wasn't, we wrote a paragraph. All items that have been submitted by the committees, whether they're on the budget priority list or not, will be submitted on a master list to city planning, and all items will be sent to the appropriate agency. So if you look at your capital, CB7 capital projects, during steering, we reordered them based on people's concerns. The vote was steering members 14-4-0 against, 1 abstaining. Of non-steering board members, it was 13-4, 1 against, and 2 abstaining. If you look at your resolution, your capital expense sheet, number 19 should read, recreate a kayak dock in CD7 for the resumption of a kayaking program in Riverside Park. Anybody who wants to speak, please raise your hand now.
I just wanted to reiterate one process, Roberta, that worked very well. We're now talking about the capital budget and expenses.
Right.
We would like the person to, if we speak, if you have multiple comments, I have a 1 and a 4 and a 5. This is sort of, we're not going to go each item down the line. We're allowing you to sort of speak to all of them. Everyone will have one chance to speak. We'll try and make sure everyone has a chance to do so. Then we'll vote. Then we'll go down, do the same thing for the expense. So we're not going to go down each one. So what I'm saying is, if you want to make a comment, you're allowed to say, I've got comments on 3 items or 2 items or 1 items. But you know, this is the time to do it. We're going to limit sort of the repeat conversation back. So again, here's your opportunity. I'm asking everyone who wants to speak to raise their hand now. I'm going to take a look. I'm going to put it in order and we're going to do it. Right now, there's only 1 person. Now there's 2. So thank you. Everyone who wants to speak, please raise your hand now, as I've asked. And we'll start with the first, which is Ken.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Roberta, for making the kayaking change. I have a concern about number 21, which I also raised at steering. It currently reads, study the possibility of crosstown protected bike lanes on West 72nd Street from CBW to RSD. Back a year ago, this board voted 37-6 for asking DOT for a proposal for protected bike lanes on 72nd. So we're way past the point of studying the possibility. We went through that process and we want a proposal. So I think it should read, fund the work required to give CB7 its requested proposal for protected bike lanes on West 72nd. So that is my request for 21. And I guess if I have to make propose an amendment for that, I will. And then I have a suggestion on, or also request on number 8 under expense.
No, we're not doing it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, capital now.
All right.
I will put, we voted on that at steering. Can I just have a show of hands of those that favor changing this to proposal, request a proposal of crosstown bike lanes?
So I think we're just trying to get an informal sort of feedback on.
Not a major vote, it's just an informal.
So
Is
Ken
everyone
has-
okay with
but
change?
But I think, Roberta, you should say again, you're asking them to vote on raise their hand for what? The change to what Ken
Change
said.
study to request a proposal.
So if you support what Ken said, raise your hands.
Proposal doesn't mean we accept it. It means that we're going to study it. The CB7 would study it.
Put your hands down if you're not.
I got it. Some people raise their hands to speak, and so what we're saying is lower your hand if you're not in support of the verbiage that Ken said. If you're in support of what he said, do it. You may have to then take your hand down, and then we'll have to raise your hands.
Okay.
So we're just trying to get a sense, or Roberta's trying to get a sense. To make the change. There's, as I see digitally, if we're correct, it's about 18 hands raised.
Okay. And how many are present? And how many are against changing it?
Let's not, okay, if we want to do that, Christian, can you lower your hands and just ask if you want to keep it the way it is? You should raise your hand if you want to keep it the way it is.
How many hands?
They're still going up. So there's a couple of hands going up and down. If everyone can hold, it would be appreciated. So there's 16 digitals. I'm raising my physical hand, so that's 17. Sort of the informals at 18, 17, and I don't know if you and Bev voted.
Stephen, I didn't vote, but I would support my amendment.
So you didn't vote in the first original?
Yeah, because my hand was up and then it was lowered because it was up because it was raised to speak. So
I don't know, we're pretty thin.
So it's tied. So it's tied, so I'm gonna leave it as.
People understood this.
well,
Period.
we're not taking amendments and voting on them.
Back to
on this?
us.
We're going to go through the thing, Ken. If you want to recall an amendment at the end of this, you have every right to do so. So why don't we allow other people to speak?
As
If you
you
want to
know.
do a formal amendment, you can.
If everyone that doesn't want to speak, put their hands down.
So let's just start again. And I think it's going to be a little tough to do that each time. Christian, can you lower everyone's hands? Can you lower everyone's hands, Christian? It's not happening because I see Andrew's hands up. Okay, great. Can everybody who now wants to speak regarding expense priorities raise their hand again?
Capital priorities.
I mean, yes, capital priorities. Again, we're going to keep an eye on who has it. I'm going to name it. I ask you to do it now. If you raise your hand late in the process, I'm not going to say I'm not going to call on you, but we're going to try and manage the time effectively. So this is the time to raise your hand to guarantee that you want to speak during this session. So with that, I'm going to call on Susan.
I'm trying to unmute. Okay, thank you. I'm not sure which one's which. Ken, I have to say that the most recent meeting on that, the kayaks, was that we did not want the kayaks. There's a kayak dock 1 mile south of our district. So I have to say, I think that's a problem. Just let me run in here. Expenses number 8. Can I talk about expenses?
We're not talking about expenses.
Talking about
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
capital budget.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Vote on, we did vote this in a steering.
Thank you. Andrew.
Yeah, my question was that, Roberta, you mentioned that the kayak dock is now number 20?
No, it's now number 19.
19. So what is, okay, that's the latest I got. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I don't see any other hands raised to speak about this.
Can we call the question?
Well, I should say, Christian, was there anyone in the public that raised their hand to speak about it?
Just a point of clarification. I don't know which document is being discussed. I'm looking at the documents I received from you, Roberta, and I don't have 19 as the kayak. Could you just tell me the date on the document that's being discussed?
The document was sent as your board package. It was sent yesterday.
Sent out?
It was sent part of
Okay,
your
thank you.
Yeah, if you look yesterday, Irene.
And we're looking at the capital budget priorities, which was emailed to everybody yesterday.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Call the question.
Second.
Okay, so let's raise the hands.
Stephen, there was no one from the public that wanted to speak on this.
I'm raising I want to raise an amendment formally.
Okay.
I second.
But he said what it was.
Ken, we got it. Ken, do you want to I think we all know what it is, but formalize what you want to vote on.
Yeah, because study the possibility of crosstown protected bike lanes, we don't need funding for our board to study it. We're talking about we need funding from the city. So what we should be saying is fund the work required to give CB7 its requested proposal for protected bike lanes on West 72nd. If you're opposed to bike lanes.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
There was a second. Ken, do you want to write in the chat what you want it to be?
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I got confused. I thought that was expense, not capital. I have to say, the meeting discussed having a study. Period.
Susan, we're going to open it up for debate. I want everyone to stop talking. We're going to get this all under control and everyone's going to speak. Okay.
Vote up or down.
Roberta, I'll help you out. You take the notes. We're going to vote on this. Ken's going to put in the chat what he wants to change. We are voting on number 21. We are taking the current verbiage that 21 says. We are going to vote on the verbiage that Ken is going to put in the chat. The crux of the matter is that
I have
all talking at once.
Stephen, the resolution that CB7 sent to DOT did not ask for it to be funded. They asked for a proposal. So quite different than asking for funding. We asked for a proposal that would then come back to CB7, that CB7 would then look at and say yay or nay to, or say we like other things. Asking for something to be funded is very different.
So that
So
was
what-
Roberta's
what-
change.
what
No,
is-
Ken, we're going to go around the room and we're going to have a debate. So Roberta's speaking. We got to get this under control. You can raise your hand. Ken, I'll give you every opportunity to speak again. But what we're going to do now is we're going to have debate on the amendment. I'm just going to state again, because I think this went very quickly. Ken brought an amendment forward. It's about number 21. He wants to change the current verbiage. Right now, it says study the possibility of crosstown protected bike lanes on West 72nd Street from Central Park West to RSD. He's asking to change that verbiage, and I'm going to read it because I think you put it in, right, Ken?
Mm-hmm.
You know why I don't see it? You put it in the chat?
Yeah, to host and.
Oh, yeah, I
panels.
got it. So he wants to change it to say, fund the work required to give CB7 its requested proposal for the protected bike lakes on West 72nd. We're now
Right.
going to have debate. Roberta spoke. Other people
No,
have
no.
their hand.
Steve, that answered my question because it's fund the proposal, not fund the, I thought it was, I misunderstood him. So that changed what I had to say. I thought he was asking to fund the bike lane. He was asking to fund the proposal. That's two different things.
Okay, so there is a nuance. We're saying fund the work required to give CB7 its requested proposal for protected bike lanes. That's a little bit different than I think that Ken originally said.
No, not true.
I mean, in a positive way. I'm not trying to say in a negative way. I'm just trying to say that if people heard something else, I think that's slightly different. I'm not trying to make a comment either way. It's all in front of everyone so they can read it. I'm just noting that I think that your wording should be read specifically by everyone, because that's what we're voting on. We're now going to go around and have debate on this issue. People should raise their hand. I'm going to count how many people raise their hand, and then I'm going to close it. There's 5 people, there's 6 people. Anybody else wants to speak, they should raise their hand now, and then I'm going to close it. Now there's 6, now there's 7. Okay, so we have 7 people who want to speak, and we're going to go around, and that's how we're going to handle it. So I'm going to start with Jay.
Stephen, I'll withdraw my request. One of it was to post the previous resolution, and I guess Sarah just did it, and I just read it, so I don't have to comment.
Thank you. Let's keep moving along here. Susan, your chance.
We asked for a study, period.
Okay, thank you for your brevity. Let's move to Ken.
As the resolution wording says, we did not ask for a study. We asked for a proposal. Again, we voted 37-6. I would just like, I don't understand how the original wording asked for any funding from the city, how funding plays into that. Maybe Roberta could tell us if we're asking for a study.
Roberta, he's just asking for clarification on how the first study, and how the first language came forward.
I don't know where we got it from, but that's what we got.
Okay, she doesn't have a specific answer. Thank you, Ken.
With the language, I don't have all the information from them.
Thank you, Ken. Howard.
No, actually, I'm sorry. At the steering committee meeting, Barbara Adler proposed that we asked for a study, and it was friendly, and 14 steering members voted to approve this document as it was written, and 13 non-steering members approved it. So it was at steering that it was changed, and it was at steering that it passed by a large majority.
Thank you. Howard.
Oh, the proposal on the website, the resolution rather on the website says a proposal. So I don't see a reason to change what the board has already done. I think it would be also wrong to have the steering committee change what the board has already done. So I would stick with what the board has already done and not usurp what the board has done. Also, in terms of funding, we're not saying go ahead. We're saying make sure to have the funding to do what we're asking them to do. I think that's a no-brainer. If we're asking the city to do something, we should expect them to pony up the funding for it.
I said
That's it.
37.
Thank you, Howard. Clary.
There, I've unmuted. I think it's completely unclear now what we're voting on. That is, whether we're voting on asking a capital allocation to create a proposal, that is for money to create a proposal, or whether we're asking for a capital allocation to create a crosstown bike lane that we may or may not want or vote for once we see a proposal. I don't understand why, as a capital matter, we would be asking for money to have to fund studying and creating a proposal. That is, I think, not a capital issue. But we certainly have not reached the point in our prior resolution where we affirmatively said we want a crosstown bike lane. And indeed, I can say, as somebody who lives on 72nd Street, there are a lot of reasons why we shouldn't want it. So I don't know what we're now being asked to vote on, whether it's money to fund the study to create the proposal or whether it's money to fund the bike lane that we have not said we want, one way or the other.
Thank you, Clary. Richard.
Yeah, real simple, both answering Clary and saying what I was going to say is, the funding is for a proposal, and I think we should be consistent with what the resolution that passed full board was, by a very substantial margin. We asked for a proposal. That's what we should be asking for in seeking funding to get that proposal.
Thank you, Richard. Barbara.
I was at this committee meeting agreeing with Susan. The conversation was about a study. DOT was there. We talked about how difficult it would be to put a protected bike lane on 72nd Street. It was definitely for a study. I don't know who wrote these minutes, but we did not talk about the proposal. This is like, we're talking about semantics here. We were talking about having a study and then taking it to the next step, presuming DOT came back and said they figured out a way that we could safely do this.
Thank you, Barbara. Jay, I see your hands up. I didn't know, is it still up or you had something?
Yeah, I don't understand just technically why this would be in a capital expense budget. It seems to me it belongs in the expense budget. It's like every other functional thing that DOT does. So number one, I think it's in the wrong place.
I agree. I agree with you and Clary, and I think we'll move it to the expense budget for now, but I think we can still vote on it even if it's in capital, if that's okay with you, Stephen.
Yeah, and just for the
my suggestion is
my recollection was that at the transportation meeting that we asked DOT to study all of the issues on 72nd Street, which meant several of which are enumerated in the resolution, and it was much more general request to study 72nd Street in its entirety and how best to regulate traffic and parking and bicycles and everything else, not to give us just a proposal for a protected bike lane. Those other issues are in fact enumerated. So any proposal should include all of it.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I think we said we were going to wrap it up with Jay. Are we ready to call the question on this amendment? Does someone want to call the question?
Call the question.
Second.
Great. Okay, so we are now, again, to be clear, voting on replacing the current language, which is on your resolutions, with the language that Ken has in the chat. It should be noted that we're going to move this from capital expense, but we're still voting on it. So those in favor of changing the wording to Ken's, please raise your hand now. Okay, so everyone could finish raising your hand, then stop. Again, I'm going to count it down. Please, last votes. 1, 2, 3. Bev, I see 15. Don't know what you see. Bev, you there? Maybe muted.
Yes, I see 15.
Anybody who's sort of verbally or wants to raise their hand? I don't think there is. Okay. Christian, can you lower all the hands? Nobody should touch their hands now yet? Okay. Everyone against the amendment, vote now, please. Okay, I'm going to count it down. 1, 2, 3. If I have my physical hand raised as well now.
22.
Great. Christian, can you lower the hands? Great. Anybody would like to abstain, please raise their hands. Thank you. Anybody for cause? Thank you. Bev, can you read out the vote?
15 to 22 to 0 to 0.
Thank you. So it was voted down and we will stay with the original language. We had already called the question to vote on the capital budget. So we're going to move to the capital budget vote now.
But
So
the
now
capital will include items 1 through 20, 21 moves to the expense sheet.
yeah, so you're voting on 1 to 20, 21 will now be moved over to the expense. And we're not going to reopen this now that it's back over at the expense since we already voted on it. So let's call the vote. Everyone in favor of the capital priorities as they are, please raise their hand now. Okay, I'm going to count it down if everyone can finish up. I'm going to go 1. Let's go. Please stop whatever you're doing. Everyone stop voting. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I'm physically raising my hand. Bev, I see 31 and 1. Do you want to confirm that?
31 and 1 is 32. Yes.
Great. Can you lower that, Christian? Great. Everyone against the budget priority, raise their hand now. Okay, I'm going to make sure that people are raising their hand. I see hands going up and down. This is voting against these budgets. We're going to please raise your hand now. Don't raise your hand if you're not. I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. I see 1, Bev. You want to confirm that?
1.
Great. Christian, can you lower that? Okay. Anybody abstaining? Wait a few seconds. I see 1 abstaining. Okay, thank you. Christian, can you lower that? Anybody for cause? I don't see any. Bev, do you want to read that out?
32 to 1 to 1 to 0.
Thank you. Okay, Roberta, let's go on to expense.
All right, we're going to expense. Beverly and I spent about an hour Thursday night after the steering committee meeting, rejiggering and rewriting, and we made one mistake, and I'd like to correct that now. The number 8 on your expense sheet should read request enforcement for all vehicles, including cars, trucks, e-bikes, and all alternative vehicles for all traffic violations in the district. And item 22 is now the study of the 72nd Street bike lane. Are there any people that want to speak on this? Starting with people that weren't at steering.
Great, thank you. So if everyone can raise your hands, I just want to remind again, please, if you want to speak, raise your hand now so we can kind of get in order. I only see 2 people raising their hands, and I have a feeling that there's more people. So if you want to speak about expense, we ask that you raise your hand now. And let's start well, I'm trying to pick new names. So a couple people just put their names up. So let's start with Kay, who hasn't spoken yet.
Hey, everybody. I just want to support especially the first priority, food insecurity, and to just mention that at the West Side Campaign Against Hunger, we're currently distributing food for 100,000 meals every week, which is a lot of food and a lot more than we were doing before, and not enough. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Kay. And just to acknowledge Kay, it's an incredible program. If anybody's seen the workings, it's magnificent. And the amount of people that are getting fed out of over there is wonderful. So thank you. And thank you for your time.
Stephen, Kay, Beverly and I will contact you before we put this into the DNS so we can get as much information as possible to put into our DNS.
Great.
Thanks. So there's 3 people raising their hands now. I'm looking for anybody that's new. And if not, then I will call on Ken. Unmute yourself, sir.
Yes, number 8, which Roberta just read about enforcement. I propose adding, and this is a proposal, not a study, the following sentence: such enforcement should be proportional to the deaths and injuries caused by each type of vehicle, based on data. Or we could say based on crash data.
I think we're just voting on the item, Ken. I think when Beverly and I write the item into its full flesh, we can work with you on language.
I think we all ought to be heard on that language.
I think, Roberta, this is sort of a flashpoint of conversation. So I think whatever you want to put in there, I think people would not be supportive of some of the things Ken said, and we want to vote it out. I'd rather just vote it out now. So
yeah, I believe all enforcement.
You can either agree to do it or not, but I think there's going to be some people.
I don't think we're not going to put more information in other than, I mean, this is what we've gotten from the Transportation Committee that we vetted it. And I think if we know specific spots where there's problems, we could, that's something the Transportation Committee needs to do. What we need to do here is just have an item that we're going to flesh out. We're not going to put any more specific language in.
We're the full board. We can do anything we want. These are our priorities.
Process-wise, I think I want to move on. There's other hands. I think you made a request. You gave feedback. We can go through the process that is, but we're going to move on to the other people as well. Thank you, Ken. Susan.
Just a quick thank you to Roberta and Beverly for a yeoman-like job. Thank you. That's it.
You are getting the brevity award today. Thank you very much. Let's go with Irena, who hasn't spoken yet, so you can go next.
Sorry, I was eating dinner.
Very jealous. I'm very jealous.
I just wanted to say that I apologize for not attending the Housing Committee meeting, but I was wondering if the Housing Committee would just consider a slight modification on the homeless outreach number 3, whether there could be some reference to funding for legal services to prevent evictions.
Actually,
which contributes to homeless housing. I mean, homelessness.
The homeless outreach actually comes from HHS.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Shelley.
Roberta, your thoughts on adding some language that Irena had requested?
So it's certainly, the specific item was there's a program, Manhattan Outreach, that does certain type of work, and that's what that item is.
Right, okay.
Certainly what you're saying is extremely important, and we can follow up in our committee work with resolutions and so on, and we welcome your input.
Okay, thank you.
The evictions should come before the Housing Committee because that is part of housing.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Irena. So I'm noting there's only one more hand up. I'm going to call on Jay, and then we're going to close up the debate on this. Jay.
My understanding is we're not voting on Ken's proposed language as an amendment, are we?
No, we're not. Roberta gave feedback and she's going to keep the language as is.
Okay, then I don't have to comment.
I'm going to call on you, Howard, even though you're going to get the demerit for putting up your
I-
hand.
and
Yes,
I
with
reserve-
respect, I'm going to let you go.
I thought it was up. I'm sorry.
after
I hit the button and missed. I think it's problematic to call for more enforcement when the police department has finite resources. To the extent we call for more in one area, we're implicitly doing two things. We're calling for less enforcement in other areas. Anytime you call for more in one, you're saying reduce enforcement in other areas because it's a zero-sum game. So that's a guarantee. You're also sending a message to the police department that we're second guessing their decisions as to how to allocate their resources. We're telling them you got it wrong without even hearing from them. So I think it's really wrong of us, and I think it's insulting to the police who put their lives on the line every day of the week to tell them implicitly they don't know what they're doing, and we don't even need to hear from them to inform our decisions as to how to provide input to them. So I feel strongly against that provision and will not be voting for it as a result.
How would you change? You would just eliminate it or you would change it?
I would change it or eliminate it. Again, we should show some respect to the police who put their lives on the line, on the line every day, and not be dictating to them why they're wrong or what they should be doing differently.
I very rarely do this, but Howard, I'm just confused. We're talking about, because I'm going to have a comment. So
Okay.
we're on number 8, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm talking about the allocation of resources. I just have a general view whether the allocation is for more enforcement for cars or more enforcement for e-bikes or more enforcement for anything. To give the police, they've made a decision as to how to allocate their resources. We should not be second guessing them without giving them the opportunity to inform us as to how they made that allocation.
I just wanted, so it's going to be my comment time. I'm raising my hand. We're not going to go through twice, as we said, so that's not going to happen. But I'm just going to read it. It says, request enforcement for all vehicles. I don't see how that's having them choose. We talk about how there's many vehicles, and
that's fair.
This is my comment time. Literally what number 8 says is request enforcement for all vehicles, including cars, trucks, e-bikes, alternative vehicles. It says some if we want to add them, but it says all vehicles. So I guess I'm not understanding where we're giving them a choice. We're just saying, and I do know that we have advocated for enforcement. I mean, I've heard that over and over. So my advocacy is I'm supporting this because I believe consistently coming out of transportation, we requested more enforcement. I don't believe this is asking for anything more than other. I think the word all vehicles says it, and I think it's very simple and straightforward. And when we start to add in proportional and stuff, to me, it becomes political. We're advocating, maybe is that a bike? I don't know. Or is that a car? I don't know. I think we all know it's a very simple, straightforward thing. And I think it's a good statement from Community Board 7 to say request enforcement for all vehicles. And that's it. That's what it says. And I'll be voting for it because I think that's what it says. So,
We should call the question.
Point of order.
So we're going to call the question now.
Point of order.
Ken, I heard you. I'm going to say we're calling the question. If somebody wants to make an amendment now, they can make an amendment. So I'll give it to you, Ken, because I have a funny feeling that that's what you're going to do. So
Okay, well, I didn't know
run
you
the
were
meeting
gonna-
as we're going to run the meeting. That's all.
I didn't, it sounded like you weren't going to allow an amendment.
Nope, I've let you speak. I've never, you have spoke fluently today. Will continue to do so. So I just wanted to continue on with the meeting as I think it should be.
Well,
run.
I am making an amendment to add the language that I read, and it's in the chat.
Okay.
And it's
So somebody
important.
has to second
It's
it.
important because, okay.
Is someone say it?
Ken, could I make a suggestion to your amendment?
Yes.
What if we say with the goal of reducing injuries and fatalities? I think that might be something that everyone agrees on and gets away from
Totally
this bike
unnecessary.
versus car issue.
You mean substitute my language for that?
Yeah.
Just sure. Okay, I'll go with that.
Say it. Rich, repeat that.
Can you read now what?
It's inherently redundant.
Everyone has to stop speaking. We're going to get through this in a timely manner. We're going to vote and then we're going to move on. So
I
Ken,
think
do
if
you
we
want-
make it,
Rich, if you want to give Ken feedback again, then we got to move on. So tell him again what you want, and then Ken's going to put it in, and then we're gonna take debate, and then we're gonna vote. So Rich.
Okay, and I hope this might be a friendly amendment, but I think if we're saying, increase enforcement of all vehicles, just add the language with the goal of decreasing injuries and fatalities in our district.
Okay, so Ken, do you now want to then put in the chat specifically what you are proposing?
What other goal could there be? What other goal could there be other than reduce injuries and?
I don't. We're not going to debate back and forth. We're not going to open it up. I ask everyone to hold their quiet. You'll have a chance to debate. We have a process, and that's what we're going to stick by. Ken, can you please put in the chat?
I'm just going to add to the greatest extent possible.
So literally, you want to make an amendment to add to Section 8 to the greatest extent possible?
No. With the goal of reducing injuries and fatalities in our district to the greatest extent possible.
Okay, Roberta, would you be open to keeping that? That seems rather.
What I'm open to keeping is request enforcement for all vehicles, including cars, trucks, e-bikes, and all alternative vehicles in all traffic violations with the intent of decreasing injuries and fatalities in CD7.
Okay, Ken, if we do that, I'm gonna let you speak, Barbara. I see. Ken, if we do that, are you fine? Are you going to withdraw your amendment, or are you still going to move forward?
Yeah, that incorporates Rich's suggestion, right?
Okay, Barbara, I see your hand up. Do you want to comment on this?
I do. I'm just offended by this whole conversation. It's just so transparent. A vehicle is a vehicle, be it a bicycle, an e-bike, or an automobile. Maybe it's more likely that if you get hit by a car, you die. But God knows, I have almost been killed many times by bicycles, and many people on this board I know have had the same experience. So, let's call a spade here. What are you talking about? Why are you so entrenched in the difference between a car and an e-vehicle? It doesn't make any sense. It's a moving vehicle.
Okay, so we're not going to. We're not going to have a one-on-one conversation.
Can we call the question?
We are going to now. Roberta amended this. Roberta, and if anybody wants to make an amendment to now, Ken has taken away his amendment. So we're now ready to vote on this unless somebody wants to make an amendment to change it again.
Call to question?
Someone's got a second?
Just read that one more time, please. I'm sorry.
Yep. Let's just see if someone wants to second the question first.
There doesn't have to be a second.
Right, you don't need a second for a call to question.
Any member can call the question. It doesn't have to be
I accepted it.
seconded. And
Yeah.
Robert's rules state that when someone calls the question, you vote.
Okay, thank you for the clarity, Jay. So we are going to vote, but I am going to acknowledge, can you just read what we're going to vote now? Just reread what 8 has become so that.
Number eight on your voting sheet now reads, not on your voting sheet, on your expense budget priority sheet reads, request enforcement for all vehicles, including cars, trucks, e-bikes, and all alternative vehicles for all traffic violations with the interest of decreasing fatalities in CD7. I will make sure the grammar is correct. But that's basically what it's going to say.
Fatalities and injuries.
Fatalities and injuries.
Injuries and fatalities. And the question has been called, so we now vote.
We're voting. Those who are voting for, let's start to raise their hands. Okay, I'm going to keep waiting. Okay, we're getting towards the top. Everyone who's voting for, vote now. I'm going to count to 3, and that's going to be the final number. 1, 2, 3. I just went out. 1, 2, 3. It's 33, and I'm raising my physical hand.
So that's 34.
Okay, Christian, could you lower the hands? Okay, everyone against? Okay, a few more minutes. Have I see three?
3,
Great. Lower the hands, Christian. Abstaining? I see 1.
1,
And Bev? And for cause, anybody for cause? Okay, you want to read that back, Bev?
34 to 3 to 1 to 0.
Thank you. Okay, well, once again, I just wanted to thank both Roberta and Bev, who's done a tremendous amount of work. This is an incredibly important thing for us, and it's sort of I think it's like the thankless job that really is important to us. So that I can't tell you how many meetings they had behind the scenes and how much work went behind. I saw it. So I personally want to thank you, but I see some digital or physical hands, whatever you want to say, thanking everyone. Okay, we are now going to move on to our business BCI items. I'm going to hand it over to the 2 co-chairs.
Steve, may I have a technical question?
Sure.
In the chat, Ken indicated that he wanted to change his capital budget vote to yes. Is that permissible under our regulations and the way we operate?
I would imagine since people are since we established that we're following up with a physical card, I think that we can make that change.
Yes, it is correct. It is permissible.
Okay.
Okay, so then we edit the capital vote accordingly.
Yes, you and Seema can sort of.
Which should
finalize.
that becomes 33 to 0 to 1 to 0.
Great.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go on to BCI.
Hi, guys. Christine, we had all positive news because we have new restaurants coming. We have existing restaurants that are expanding, what they'll be serving, not just beer and wine, but full bar. So it's really great stuff. I'll start with the new applications, and then Christian will back me up. Is that good? Okay, so first is Lolo's Chicken Shack, which sounds so awesome. It's 108th Street and 2799 Broadway. It was a unanimous vote. It's going to be a lot of fun, folks. So is there anyone from the public who wants to speak? Or if not, I think we should vote. Are there any questions?
Before we vote, no one from the public has signed up to speak on any of our resolutions. These are all very straightforward. We have 2 new applications for SLA license. We have 1 alteration application, 3 class changes, 2 methods of operation changes, and the one thing that's new, the last one, which is an expansion onto municipal property, that's part of the new rules with SLA. They are anticipating the use of the roadway for restaurant seating. The way we're doing now with the emergency rules, they're anticipating that will become permanent, and this is their way of applying for you to be able to serve liquor on the open seating. All of these applications were approved. There was no dissension, and I would like to ask if anyone will object for us to take only 1 vote for all of them.
That's not a bad idea.
So we're proposing bundling all of them. Does anybody have an issue with that from an efficiency?
They weren't controversial. They were all good news.
Does anybody?
I have a question and a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Jay?
I think it's 3 of the resolutions involve either an expansion or creation of permission to have music, both live and record. I think it was in 3 of the resolutions. Is that right, Linda?
It was, but the music they were going to have was going to always be jazz, the live music, the hours, we went through the hours of operation. They were all closing relatively early. So nobody from the public objected, and it wasn't like we're going to have rock bands.
No,
So
I get it.
it's
So my question is, does the committee do any outreach to the residents of the buildings above these restaurants?
Normally,
I say this in the context of
no, and I'm just going to say this: pre-COVID, we absolutely did. But Jay, life's changed, and the residents, everybody, you know, the community is always invited, and it was well, you know, and so nobody objected, not one objection.
Okay, it's just an observation, particularly with
and it's a good one.
Amsterdam and Columbus, and God knows we all support the continued existence of our restaurants, but I don't know that it necessarily depends on music. And I know we've all walked on Amsterdam and Columbus on a balmy evening, and it's a zoo. And I get concerned for all of the people that live above these establishments, and I just, without any input as to whether people are disturbed or.
And next time you should come to the committee meeting, then you could give us your input then. But I can tell you right now, everybody spoke to the applicants. No one is going to have a band. There is no recorded music. There is there's no electric music. It's all acoustic. So I don't think the issues that you're talking about, we hope that they don't become issues.
We also inquire as to soundproofing of these establishments when they want to play music, and we were satisfied with those answers.
All right, that's fine. I accept your answer. I was especially concerned, however, with now giving permission to a restaurant to play music out on the street now.
No, it's only inside.
I believe one of them was in the municipal
no, that wasn't for
property,
music.
And that's one of them out on the street.
That could be.
That was only, Jay, that was only.
This is actually taking longer than it was. So why don't you start bundling them in smaller groups?
All right,
that's fine.
That's fine. I'll record my vote.
Arena?
Thank you. I just wanted to say, and I've had this conversation with Michelle, and Michelle and I talked about this, and we're going to try to work together on this, is that we're not getting that much public participation, and it has been difficult to reach the public during COVID. But I think Jay's point is well taken, especially with the cafes and the street structures, to try to engage more people, at least in the buildings. And I'm going to talk to Michelle. We talked about this, and she just, she needs time to sort of do other things. But we did have a conversation about outreach, and I used to do this work for the Central Park Conservancy, and I'm going to try to work with her so that we could just get more participation from the public via, social media and email. But to Jay's point, the only restaurant that proposed live jazz music is the first one, and it's only during brunch hours.
Right. And it was acoustic, and it was inside.
So we're going to keep this bundled.
Yes.
We have two more people. I'm sorry, you done, Raina? Sorry about that.
Yeah, this is just personally me. I have to. I'm fine with bundling everything, but I have to declare myself ineligible for 688 Columbus because I represented the co-op board, and I think, the other person that may have to be ineligible is not here, so that's moot. Okay, so I don't know how to put this on my voting sheet, so maybe you can help me with it.
Doug, on your voting sheet, you recuse yourself for that one only, and make sure that Beverly knows that.
You're gonna mark down everything individually, and the one that and on 6888, just put that you have to that you're not eligible. That's all.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. There was one more hand up, Robert.
Yeah, hi. Of course, all of this is music to my ears. I just love it. And I just want to share a thought with BCI, which I think is a great committee, that given, yes, Douglas, and given the new New York City outdoor environment, and what we have always known with big cities is that, and the joke used to be that New York City floats on rats. And with the outdoor dining, we are not the only ones that are loving outdoor dining. The rats love it. And what I will share with Stephen and BCI is just my thoughts, spell it out a little better. That I'd like to see a partnership between BCI and the Department of Health to establish new criteria, which would be a required part of the application for restaurant outdoor dining. And titling it, Linda, titling it rat containment program for restaurant A, B, or C. And they would have to spell out exactly what is there, in the same way that we hold them to music containment and so on. What is your plan to contain rats? And they should
I
all
have
be-
no plan to do that. I can tell you right now. It would probably be Department of Sanitation rather than Department of Health.
Well,
Those are
which,
different
Linda,
issues.
yeah,
Different
Linda,
issues.
whichever one, there's not a different issue.
Yeah.
We're talking about rats and outdoor dining and what's going to become another plague.
It
And
has
you don't
exacerbated the
disagree.
problem.
You don't disagree.
So I'm
Anyway,
gonna,
so I will
thank you,
share my
Robert.
thought
We
with
could,
BCI and-
thank you,
We're good
Robert.
this
We
all
could-
one.
thanks BCI for all of that. I think it's great.
But we've also, I want to say this, we're still trying to get Department of Transportation over to BCI. We sent them a bunch of questions through Michelle Booker. I've spoken to Council Member Rosenthal's office. They're going to reach out to DOT. So at a certain point, and I think getting to your point, because it is a DOT issue too, and maybe they'll send us to DOS or DOH, but we sent them a list of questions that are specifically germane, not to the ULURP and the zoning amendment, but germane to restaurants. Of course, we've got, Andrew Ritchie is on our committee, so we have a tremendous amount of information, but we're going to get them to sit in front of us. If not this month, we will get them in November. So we'll have somebody, it obviously won't be Colleen. She says she's not going to come, but somebody from DOT will be there.
Thank you. Are we ready to call the question on this?
Call the question.
Thank you.
No,
Yes, yes, Jay.
but I have to object to the bundling. Just break it in half. Do the resolutions on music as one group and the others as another group.
There's
Otherwise,
only
I don't-
one
I
on
don't
music,
know.
Jay, so I'll tell you what, let's do individually. I'll call them right now.
Let's do
okay?
this. Let's bundle.
What?
We went this long on the bundle. Jay, which is the one you want pulled out?
The three that are asking for.
What are they?
Expanded, I don't.
What
have
numbers
the
are they,
numbers.
Jay?
The only one is
Your
Cal.
request.
I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Well, you got it. Come on, we're trying to bundle them and you have a request. You got to give us specifics.
Oh, Linda,
What do you want
Linda
pulled?
and Christian, they know which ones they are.
I don't
No,
know.
we don't offhand.
Well,
It's 505 Columbus, we do
Trying to
know.
bundle these. If you want it pulled out, please tell us which ones you want pulled out.
There were the two of the method of operation change that wanted to allow music. That's
Number one,
442 Amsterdam.
2799.
2799, right.
Yeah. And then
no,
there
no, no,
was.
no.
Yeah,
It's
2799.
2799.
2799 was just a new license for liquor.
It's live jazz
No.
music. It's planned during brunch. It
Yeah,
says
it's
it in
live
the
jazz
note.
music during brunch. I'm
Okay.
looking at the minutes now. Oh.
Yeah, so am
here we go.
I.
And live, I'm sorry. And
We're going to get this back
505
under control. I'd ask everyone to stop talking. Jay, if you want to make a request, you have to make it specific or we're going to bundle it. So what? do you
505
want out of the
Columbus
bundle?
Avenue.
Please, Linda. Please, Linda. Please, Linda. Jay, what would you like removed?
I'm just noting my objection
May,
to the bundling. You can
No.
go ahead and call.
may
the
I
vote,
suggest,
And I'll make the entry
No.
in my voting sheet.
Steve, may I
it's
suggest what
appropriate.
we've done in the past is that person can vote for the package and then say that they're voting no on the specific one, and they can put that on their sheet.
That's
What
correct.
if I want to vote
Okay, that
no
sounds
for
good,
the
but
package and then
Okay.
vote yes on specific one?
hey, Jay,
That's-
stop talking.
You can
that's
do it
okay
either
too.
way.
Jay, hold on a minute. I'm gonna give you your answer. We know that number one The 2799 Broadway will have live music at brunch. I'm reading the minutes now, which evidently we read and forgot, and so did I, because it's been a month. The other one was the other application. There were two. Was at 505 Columbus Avenue, and that was Tosca. And they're talking about having live music, again, acoustic music on the lower
And what was
level.
the third?
I'm not finished, Jay. On the lower level of the restaurant. And as I'm looking at this, that was two, and that was it. So, oh, yep, that was it. So there were two, Jay.
What
I'm
about
gonna
the one
look
that
through
was
here.
asking permission to do it on municipal?
Okay, all right, I'm making it
municipal
executive. Let's just vote them one by one. We're moving on. Let's vote them one by one.
Oh,
Let's-
wait, and I'll tell you
We're
the third
moving
one.
on. Let's vote
Wait.
one by one. We're moving
Wait,
on.
Stephen,
I'm
one
not
more.
asking. It's my meeting. It's my meeting, and we're
Okay,
moving
sorry.
on. We wasted 25 minutes talking about bundling this, and now we're not. So let's move on. We're moving to, we're voting for number two. We could not bundle it. Let's go. Vote.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand.
We're voting now for number two.
Okay, I can't find my hand.
Okay, my physical hand's up. So Bev, I see that would be 35, correct?
35.
Okay, lower your hands, Christian.
35 plus you is 36.
And lower the hands again. I think there was a mistake, Christian. Thank you. Everyone against?
Two.
That's two. Let's lower them, Christian. Abstaining? Lower them again. I think someone was raising it while you lowered it. Could you lower them again? I'm going to redo it. Okay, abstaining.
Okay, Stephen, may I interject? The
After-
third restaurant was the Consulate. The
We're
Consulate.
voting.
had been-
We tried to bundle it. It didn't work. Let's just
Yeah.
vote. Let's just vote.
Okay.
We're voting. We're interrupting the
I
vote.
just-
Let's keep moving.
I just want to say my no vote, I voted yes, and I thought it was again, but it was the second one, it was against.
Can
So eliminate one negative. And
Can we
keep the
start
positive.
again?
Let's redo it. Let's start again. We're going to vote on number two. We're going to start afresh. And so
Okay.
we'll try and get
All those in
organized
favor,
here.
please.
Everyone in favor of vote number two? Okay, everyone stop. I'm raising my hand.
34. No, there's 35 because there's 34 plus you.
Bev, once we say we're voting, if someone raises their hand afterwards, it is what it is. Somebody keeps raising their hand over back and forth when we vote, and we just have to move on from them. Please lower their hands. Please lower your hands. Nobody raised their hand. Please lower their hands. See, I want to explain to everyone that if we're lowering the hands and you're raising your hand or you're lowering your hand, you're having the opposite effect. Nobody has to lower their hand. Christian will lower the hands. Okay, anybody against? Okay, one. Christian, lower the hand. Abstaining. Bev, I see one.
One.
Lower the hand. For cause. Thank you. Lower the hand. Okay, Bev, you want to read that?
35 to 1 to 1 to 0.
Okay.
Great. Number three. Everyone voting for number three, raise your hand.
Is it possible that you can call it by address? It might be easier because
I'm going by
That
the
would be
voting
easier.
sheet, but I'll say voting
Okay.
three, which is 505 Columbus Avenue. But if everyone takes out their voting sheet, I'm literally calling it by the voting sheet because there seems to be a lot of confusion today. So we are now voting on number three, which is 505 Columbus Avenue. If you're voting for it, please raise your hand.
Hold on, Stephen, shouldn't it be 2799 Broadway?
Now, I believe those two were bundled together. It says new applications, SLA, number two.
Oh, I see. I thought we weren't bundling. Got it.
No, they're bundled. So they were already bundled as per the voting sheet. We're on number 3, 505 Columbus. Everyone raised their hand. Let's stop. We're going to count it now. Please stop. We're going to count it now. Please stop. We're going to count it now. It's 32 and 1, 33.
33.
Christian, lower the hands. Voting against. That's 1.
1, 2, 2.
Lower your hands. Christian. Abstaining.
0.
For cause.
1.
Okay, great. Let's go to number 3. 130 West 72nd Street. No, I'm sorry, number 4, 130 West 72nd Street. Everyone voting for that, raise your hands. Okay, I'm raising mine. 34 and 1, Bev.
35.
Thank you. Lower the hands, Christian. Everyone voting against? That's 1.
1.
Lower their hands. Abstaining?
0.
For cause.
0.
Read up the vote. Okay.
35 to 1 to 0 to 0.
Great. Let's go to number 5, 145 West 72nd Street. Everyone for, raise your hands. All right, count to 3. 1, 2, 3. 31, 1, 32, Bev.
32.
Thank you. Lower the hands, Christian. Those voting against. 1. Christian, lower the hand. Abstaining?
1.
Christian, lower the hands. For cause.
0.
Thank you.
22 to 1 to 1 to 0.
Thank you, Bev. We're going to go to 6, 452 Amsterdam Avenue. All those 4, raise your hands. My hand's raised too. 30, Bev. 29, 1.
30.
We're going to pause. Again, please raise your hands immediately. We're going to redo that because people were raising their hands at the end. So let's redo this one. Everyone voting for this one, please raise their hand. Please do it now, right now. We're going to close off the vote. 1, 2, 3. 30 plus 1, 31. Great. Against? I think you lowered it too quickly.
Yeah, I did. Sorry about that. Yeah.
There was 1 against.
There was 1 against.
Abstaining?
1.
Lower the hand. For cause.
0.
Okay,
31 to 1 to 1 to 0.
Great. Let's go to number 7, 442 Amsterdam Avenue. All those in favor, vote for. One, 2, 3. My hands raised.
33, including you.
33. Lower the hands. Lower the hands, Christian. Against?
1.
Great. Lower the hands. Abstaining?
1.
Lower the hands.
I'm sorry, I'm for this resolution as well. I did not raise my hand earlier. I'm sorry for the confusion.
And could you add one on, Bev?
Thank you.
One for,
One affirmative for this resolution, add to the number that you have written down.
okay, 34 to 1 to 1
Any for cause?
to 0.
Great. You want to read that just again for confirmation?
34 to 1 to 1 to 0.
Thank you. Number 8, 518 Columbus Avenue, all those 4. Okay, please stop. My hand's up, Bev. I see 31 and 1.
32 altogether, yes.
Thank you. Christian, lower the hands. Against?
1,
Christian, lower the hands. Abstaining?
1,
Lower the hands. For cause?
0.
Okay. Thank you. We're on to the
33
last.
1 to 1 to 0.
Thank you, Bev. We're on to the last one, number 9442 Amsterdam Avenue, all those 4. Okay, I'm raising mine. I see 32 and 1, Bev.
33,
Thank you. Lower the hands, Christian. Those of you against?
1,
Okay, lower the hands. Abstaining?
1,
Lower the hands. And for cause?
0. 33 to 1 to 1 to 0.
I'm just going to say, Doug, I thought you needed to go for cause for one of these. I don't recall saying cause for these.
That was one of the ones that was bundled, which I wrote in the chat. So that's 688.
688 Columbus.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And Stephen, I'm going to add the third restaurant that we didn't get to discuss is the Consulate, which will have the piano that they used to have at Machiavelli that never, ever, ever got a complaint.
Okay, well, we closed the voting here, so let's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a
So we'll move
clarification.
on. Thank you very much. And we'll move on. So there is, the last section is approval of the minutes from the last full board meeting. Do we want a unanimous vote to support the minutes from last meeting?
So moved.
Great. Can we get a verbal yay?
Yay.
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 Hey,
Thank
Can we
you.
vote on each minute separately?
I'm abstaining, so it's not unanimous.
Okay. So then we have a unanimous but abstaining, and that was for the last full board meeting. That's all we're voting on. I'm going to defer my chair report, and I'll go on to Michelle Booker to have her district manager report.
Hello, greetings, everyone. I hope everyone's well. Thank you. This will be short. I just want to report out that the Manhattan Borough President's Office recommends that community boards as well as community stakeholders provide their viewpoint on the amended open meetings law. The ability to hold meetings virtually was extended to Saturday, January 15th, 2022. However, after that date, community boards and other public boards will be required to host in-person / public meetings for their deliberations. Therefore, it is encouraged that community boards advocate for their position about this law. That's the first thing. So just be mindful that January is not far, but not too far. So if we would like to speak to that issue, we should deal with that. Next, I just want to report out that currently we're in the hiring process for assistant district manager. The next thing is for the borough budget board consultations, which I participated in. I moderated for 3 of those agencies, which was the Department of Education, Administration for Children's Services, and the Department of Youth and Community Development. And I also want to thank Mark Diller for his work in that area. And finally, I just also want to share that the office has been going through a lot of updating. We have acquired a new server for storage, which is important because we need to store all of our virtual meetings on it. Also, we have new and improved equipment for meetings at the office, and there are also just ongoing repairs that I'm working with the property management on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So that closes our business session. Thank you, Michelle. We're going to open up to the community session. And Gail, would you like to give your report?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. A few things. First of all, on the larger front, there's this, congestion pricing. I believe the governor is supportive. I just want to emphasize that we are pushing hard someone from the borough of Manhattan. Number one. Number two, when I testified, I did talk about yellow cabs and green cabs not being included in any kind of a fee. Others had other suggestions, but I just want to say community board should certainly weigh in, particularly you, because you're going to get a lot of 60th Street issues, may I say. And so I think you're aware of it, but I just want to let you know I have a lot of emails on the topic. Number two, working with April Adams from our office. I want to thank McDonald's and the business people between 95th and 96th Street on the west side of the street. It turns out, no surprise to you, that there are a lot of individuals who are holding doors at some of the fast food restaurants, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, and Popeyes in particular, and they're challenging in terms of their way of making money, but also in terms of not being friendly to customers. And so working with the security at McDonald's, the amazing 2-4 precinct, really phenomenal, and the storekeepers. We have secured, thanks to McDonald's, they are hiring security for that location. And we are working with the 2-4 precinct. They have officers there on a regular basis. And according to the business owners, the situation has improved. People can make close to $100 a day opening the door. And so it's a business model. You have shifts, but you have to stop the business model. It's not necessarily homeless. It's not necessarily drugs. It's not necessarily substance abuse. The business model. And so I think we have to work now with Popeyes and Dunkin' Donuts. But just so you know, we're trying very hard. Con Edison, which has a plan, as you know, at 120 West End Avenue. We received complaints about the noise. It was not normal. Nobody complains about having the plant there, when it should be quiet. So the Department of Environmental Protection inspected it. They found that there was a fan inside the AC unit, which was broken. It was contributing to the noise. It improved as a result of that improvement to the AC unit, but it is still noisy more than normal. So we are continuing to work on that. I want to go back to 96th Street. We've got a lot of complaints, as I'm sure the community board has, about the traffic, 96 and Broadway, going east, going west, north, south, and so on. So I think we should all be asking the NYPD and DOT to have a traffic agent there. I don't need to tell you about the construction. I don't need to tell you about the construction vehicles parked literally on some of the parking lanes, and you end up with only one lane all morning. You know the issue. I don't want to talk about it further. Everybody's talking about rats. There, I see them. They eat the garbage, etc. One, and Kari probably knows about this, but the issue is with the Parks Department. It's not just one park. In general, we should all be advocating for the following. It's my understanding, because rats are not just from the parks, and I can talk about others, but people using the parks are constantly asking and complaining, and I don't blame them. The parks personnel, in terms of sanitation, show up at 7 and they work till 3. So they pick up garbage and clean the trash bins at 7 a.m. to 2:30, then they leave. So that means rats have a lot of food available from 3 until 7 the next morning, or even 2:30 until 7 the next morning. So we are asking, most definitely, this is a larger issue, but it's got to be addressed, that there be an additional pickup at 7 p.m. in the evening, because with this amazing opportunity for rats, it's just feasting. So I'm going to add that to your list of topics to deal with. In terms of the parks, we're all pushing on soldiers and sailors. It's probably 35 million now. There's a group of people from the Friends of and people who just love that monument who are trying hard to get it renovated, and we have to figure out how to do it. It's not easy. Ariana Cough. I also want to mention we're starting again with our fresh fruit for seniors. It's a very popular program. It'll be $9 for a full bag of fresh fruits and vegetables, working with Grow NYC, and we're working with Goddard and Project Find, National Council of Jewish Women, Bloomingdale Aging in Place, DeRoad and Lincoln House Outreach, and I'm sure others. But anybody can participate. Shula Warren Puder in our office at 212-669-8300 is the one who is in charge of it, and we'd love to work with you. People are very excited about that it's coming back. We're doing it in other parts of Manhattan also. We had an amazing exhibit last night opening in what we call the Maggie Payton Gallery in 1 Center Street. 150 people showed up. And this is an exhibit of paintings, visuals, some sculptures of pandemic. And it's all about the pandemic, and it's quite amazing. So you're all welcome to, it'll be up there until the middle of December. We are also participating this year in the open house in person. The date of open house New York for us is Saturday, October 16th. We are again going to do the John Rendell maps, which you know are from 1811, the Commissioner's Plan. And we're also going to, for those who wish, we're gonna individually give people the portion of where their home is or their section. It's a long story, but we're gonna be there from 10 to 4. You will, if you want, get something as a result in terms of the map that is your site. And obviously we'll need masks and proof of vaccination to get in. We're all pushing for composting. Manhattan is not doing well. I know I signed up, my block signed up. So curbside composting, we have got to get Manhattanites to sign up for it. I just want to remind people that every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, as we did today, we have, I don't know, hundreds of people on to talk about vaccines and funding for whatever agency is appropriate. Today it was mental health, much discussion, and ongoing talk about the vaccine. So it's always helpful. Today was on seniors and the funding opportunities, and certainly the mental health and those funding opportunities. That's sort of it. We've also been working on lots of trash issues, as you can imagine, and park issues, but I think I covered them because we've got to figure out how to get rid of these rats. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Perhaps Christian and or Mark can help. I don't see other elected officials on the line, but I'm going to play around here.
I'm actually here.
Oh, okay then. Well, thanks. Thank goodness I asked.
It's a good thing you asked. Thank you. All right. So
well, you don't need any introductions, so I'll hand it off.
Oh, you can introduce me if you like.
Well, our local assembly person who does a wonderful job for us, and we will have Linda Rosenthal speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And first, I want to congratulate everybody who ran and was reelected tonight. You know, you have a tough job, and I congratulate you for undertaking it and executing your responsibilities so diligently. Gail mentioned the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. She and I were both at a little event they had to draw attention to the needs of the monument. And it's so important. We're racking our brains, maybe some of you have access to billionaires who want to just contribute a portion of the 35 million to fix it. But it's really such a shame that it's in such a state. Composting, I agree. I really think that there's another story behind sanitation saying there's not demand, because so many people say to me, well, I applied. So I'm not sure what that is, but we should all keep encouraging people to voice their requests to have it there, to have composting on their block. A couple of Albany items. I have a bill with Senator Hoylman on ghost guns that we passed in June. And if you've read the papers recently, there's been a upswing in people using ghost guns in crimes in New York, but also across the nation. Ghost guns are guns that you purchase online. They come in parts. You assemble them at home. They don't have serial numbers, and they also do not have any markings. So if you use the gun, and you also don't have to undergo a background check. So if you use the gun, it's impossible to trace it back to you because there's no identifying marks. I'm especially concerned about people who know they can't legally get a license for a gun or a gun, and they're going around the system by ordering online. So hopefully the governor will soon sign the bill, which would ban the use and possession of ghost guns and only allow licensed gunsmiths to make any serial markings, etc., on it. So hopefully she will do that soon. I know she's signing, hopefully this week, maybe not, some bills about opioids and providing services to people who do have a substance use disorder, both in prison and on the way out. And since the state is going to benefit from the AG's settlement, so we have many, many dollars that have to go to help support treatment, education, recovery, but really help programs spread and flourish, because the overdose rates for this state and this city in 2020 were the highest ever. It's a crisis that we government has to address, and government has the money to address it. So that's very important. Okay, transit signal priority letter. I wrote to DOT and MTA, and this is something that I'm sure many of you know about it, but if a bus driver can change the light so they don't get stuck behind a red light. And it's in other communities, it's not here. And I'd like to discuss with the chairs or members who are interested some other time about how we get the MTA and New York City Transit to have that here in this district. And I'm going to be mentioning
Linda.
that. Sorry?
It's coming.
I know, but come on, we've waited long enough. And I mean, congestion pricing, yes, I will be testifying tomorrow. I urge all of you who are interested. I think April put a link in the chat. And I will be reflecting a lot of the concern about what happens if 61st Street becomes a parking lot. I did speak to MTA officials today, and they said they understand that's a problem and they will be studying it. But I will say that publicly as well, because it's, we will bear some of the burden, and that's good, but we also need relief in other ways. And I also think the 60,000 cutoff for that people don't have to pay within the zone that was something we decided in 2019. This will not be implemented till 2023, perhaps by the end of 2023. So, inflation and other factors, 60 is not enough, I don't think. And of course, people with disabilities and other issues should not be forced to pay, and seniors who have to go to doctor's appointments. I mean, there are all sorts of exemptions, but we have to be careful with the number of exemptions, because it will then, if we have too many exemptions, it will raise the cost for everybody who pays a congestion pricing fee. So it's a delicate balance, but the city desperately needs it. Brooklyn Fair, which took the place of Western Beef, should be open in a week or two. I went through the place with some residents of Amsterdam and Lincoln Square, and they should be ready soon. So I hope everybody gives it a chance. It will be much better than Western beef, much cleaner, more products, and a local supermarket, which doesn't really exist in that area. This summer, I did a survey of West Side public playgrounds in Riverside and Central Park, and there are many issues that we discovered. Interns in my office did a great job, and so I'm asking parks to inspect and make improvements throughout the parks. And then 4 more things. I'm having a flu shot day, October 19th, from 10 to 1 at Lincoln Square Neighborhood Center with Mount Sinai. So if you need a shot, if you're interested, please email my office or call and say you're interested in that. I'm also hosting a COVID-19 testing event on October 20th at Lincoln Square Neighborhood Center. I saw a disturbing video today in Union Square. There was a COVID testing tent, and anti-vaxxers went and threw things around and tossed the tent, and nobody did anything. It's frightening. Freedom of speech, but not freedom to assault and attack. Okay, back by popular demand, I'm hosting a shred day on Sunday, November 14th with State Senator Serrano from 10 to 2 in front of my office. And I think that's all. You know how to reach me if you need me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't see other elected officials. Please let me know. And I know that Christian and Mark sometimes help me. It's a little bit of I'm going to pause for a few more minutes. Great.
I don't see any elected officials. There are a few representatives signed up.
That I'm aware of. So I think what we've done in the past is we have then vacillated back, or I should say toggled back and forth between a community member and a rep to sort of change up the dynamic. I would ask, so let's start with a community member first. Christian, how many community members are signed up?
1.
1. Okay, well, let's start with that, and then we'll just do the community member, and then we'll go to the elected officials. So if you want to help me promote this.
That would be Ashley Gonzalez.
Hi, can you hear me? So my name's Ashley Gonzalez.
Unmute yourself, Ashley.
Actually, we could hear you, so if you want to continue to speak.
No, but she's muted right now.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Go ahead.
My name's Ashley Gonzalez. I'm a librarian at the St. Agnes branch of the New York Public Library. We have been open since the end of July, if anyone wasn't aware of that. The big announcement I have right now is there was an announcement today made that there will be no more fines for all the New York City libraries, specifically for the New York Public Library. They're also waiving all past library fines on all accounts. This is about equality and access. It's been shown that library fines actually don't make people return books. So this is a really, really great thing. I actually used to work in the Aguilar area, where you'd see people with $100 in fines and they can't check out because they can't pay their fine. And I usually just waived them because you want people to be able to check out books. We're also celebrating Welcome Week in between October 18th and 23rd. Specifically at St. Agnes, we'll be having a few in-person programs. We're also going to show our first movie that Saturday. Specifically at St. Agnes, we're just slowly rolling out in-person programming as staff and the public is more comfortable with it. We are going to be continuing virtual programming. That's all I have. I can take questions if there's time.
I just asked that, if there's some questions, we'll put them in the chat, and perhaps you can answer them, and we're going to kind of continue on with other speakers as well.
That's fine. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you. Peter does have his hand raised, so although he may not have done it through you, why don't we have Peter speak and then we'll move to a representative. So Peter, do you want to speak? Sorry about that. Peter, you can speak now. Give it a few more seconds. Peter Arns, do you want to speak? Okay. I'm not sure what happened there. Peter, if you come back, I'll keep an eye for yours. So let's move on to our representatives, elected officials. I think what we've asked is, if you could sort of give your kind of top 2 things that you're sort of focused on, and then sort of put your newsletters in the chat. But we're trying to be judicious with our meetings, to say the best way I can say it. So why don't I just I have some names here, and I'll just start. So Michael Stinson, you want to start?
Stephen, one last person signed up to speak also in the public session.
Okay, we'll have him speak after Michael. Michael, do you want to speak?
Yep, thank you, Stephen. Just be very brief. I have 2 things that I'll share in the chat. We have a back to school guide that we put out at the beginning of school year, and we have a new newsletter that, again, I'll drop in the chat. But I just wanted to let everyone know that this will be my last Community Board 7 meeting. I'm going to be leaving the controller's office at the end of next week. I just want to say thank you to everyone I've been able to work with on Community Board 7. It's been such a pleasure to represent the controller and work with you and see this very dedicated board. Sometimes a stressful board, but you guys represent your community very, very well. And Scott threw me into this when back in 2017, gave me a town hall on the Upper West Side in my first 3 weeks of working for him to get to know you all. And it's been so great. And I'm not going far, I'm staying in the city, but just switching jobs here. And please stay in touch. I will share my information as I get to next week. But I just want to say again, for a million times, you guys have been so great to me and teaching me everything about the Upper West Side. And it's been so helpful in working for Scott, and it's been great. And thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I know I appreciate over this last year the meetings you're at, and thanks for your very eloquent assessment of the board. So spot on. Okay, Christian, did you say that we now have a community person that wants to speak?
So Esther Williams, you can unmute yourself to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks for giving me the chance to speak. Just 2 quick points. The first is that lately there's been an increase in incidents of adults entering children's playgrounds, specifically those in Riverside Park, Hippo Park on 90th and River Run on 83rd. And sometimes approaching children, and speaking to them in a bizarre way. There have been cases of adults photographing children after being asked not to, and then other cases of adults engaging in, behaviors that, one should only do by themselves at home. What can we do to improve safety in the children's playgrounds and actually prevent these types of things from happening? I think that, kids' playgrounds should be, a place where kids can feel very safe and not have to worry. So I'm curious to hear whether anyone has any ideas about how we could avoid these issues.
Well, thank you, Esty, for bringing this up. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate setting to start solution thinking, but there are our Parks Committee. We have various committees that I think are the opportunity to do so, and clearly with the police department as well. So duly noted, and if you'd like to show up at one of our committees, there's always a new business section, and we can bring this up and brainstorm, but we certainly appreciate you bringing this up at the full board.
Okay, may I make a second point?
It's time to move on. If you have a brief point, we'd like to make it, but there is.
Yeah.
So if you have a brief, sure.
Sure. Just a suggestion that that the community board gets specific data on how well the Goddard outreach efforts are working for the street homeless population before continuing with the status quo. That's all.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, let's jump over to an elected a representative. Let's go with Hope K. Hope, are you still here? I took down some notes earlier, so perhaps they moved on. So I'm gonna, and I guess I'm assuming that all the representatives don't want to speak, so I'll just call on you. Hannah, do you want to jump in?
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah from Congressman Nather's office. I'll be very quick. So Congressman Nather stands with President Biden in the need to pass both the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the reconciliation package. We don't know the contours of everything yet. It's obviously up for discussion. When, God willing, both of those bills are passed, I will happily come back to the board and enumerate all the various things and all the provisions that might affect you. Very quickly, the Judiciary Committee, while some stuff moves in Washington, other stuff doesn't, but the Judiciary Committee passed 13 bills out of committee. One of them, just a flag, is the MORE Act, which is the federal legalization of marijuana. So hopefully I'll get a vote on the House floor soon. And then the House itself passed the Equal Act, which is a bipartisan bill that eliminated the discrepancy in sentencing between powder and crack cocaine. So it's been a long fight to get this bill passed. So it passed the House. Hopefully we'll go to the Senate to get passed as well. Any federal issues you have, USPS, anything, feel free to contact our office, especially with mail issues. The second you have a mail issue, contact our office. It's easier to get it resolved the faster we have the information. So thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, Hannah. Peter, I see you have now mysteriously appeared. So whatever happened has been fixed. So you are up.
Yes, thank you very much. I got knocked off somehow, and somehow somebody got me back on. So really appreciate it. Quickly wanted to just mention that our open streets will have celebrations around. First off, there's now a new sculpture at 97th and Amsterdam, and we're hoping to do something around Sunday, October 17th down there, perhaps with the artist herself being there with it. It's a celebration of Puerto Rican lace making and Puerto Rican women that are strong and resilient, and their culture and their contributions to our neighborhood. So that will be happening hopefully October 17th. That's through DOT Arts, that sculpture is there. Other things will be a celebration of Halloween and of the Day of the Dead in the neighborhood. We are continuing the open streets at least through October 31st. That's on Amsterdam and on Columbus Avenues. There will be a history talk on October 18th by Joshua Jelly Shapiro on names of New York and how we can trace the history of New York through those names. That's based on a book that he has written. Let's see. I think that I'm going to call it quits at that and have a good evening. I put something else in the chat on some other issues. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Peter.
Ask me questions.
Feel free to reach out to me.
Okay.
Mandy Heller, I think this is your first meeting. So unless I missed something, you're up.
Hi.
I think we're losing you a bit, unless that's me. You muted yourself.
Can you hear me?
You can now.
Okay. Thank you for having me. The senator and colleagues voted and passed this extraordinary session to extend the eviction and foreclosure moratorium through January 2022. Last month, the Supreme Court blocked a significant part of the New York State's COVID-19 Emergency Eviction and Foreclosure Protection Act, putting thousands of tenants at risk for losing their homes. Last week, the court also rejected President Biden's latest moratorium on evictions. The senator is proud that by extending the eviction moratorium, we are protecting vulnerable New Yorkers by allowing them to remain in their homes as we continue to face this pandemic. They're also mentioning what Assemblymember Rosenthal mentioned about the Shred event on November 14th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And also the senator joined with Senator Biaggi, Assembly Member Yulin New, and colleagues in the legislature in a letter to Senator Schumer and New York congressional delegation requesting an extension to all federal unemployment insurance. So just a couple of the highlights that have been going on recently.
Thanks. And just to clarify, I think it's State Senator Serrano, correct?
Yes, it's New York State Senator Serrano's office. New York State Senator Jose M. Serrano is the office I work for.
Okay, thank you. Dana Gallagher. Dana, are you still on?
Oh, yes, I'm here. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. I'm from Assemblymember O'Donnell's office and wanted to highlight two accomplishments. One, we're excited to share that since the last time we all met, we were able to pass the Gender Recognition Act and get it signed into law. This was passed signed into law exactly 10 years after the Marriage Equality Act was signed, and it gives transgender and non-binary New Yorkers easy access to identity documents that accurately reflect how they identify. And we are also looking forward to pushing forward new legislation to establish an Office of the Correctional Ombudsman. So this would be an independent entity that would investigate complaints and then grievances from both inmates and correction officers. So we are looking forward to pushing this through so we can have more transparency and impartiality in our correction system. And we're looking forward to ramping up for the start of session in January.
Thank you very much. Bryce, you're up.
Yes, thank you very much. Hope everyone had a great summer. Didn't get a chance to speak at the last meeting in September. We weren't afforded the opportunity. Assemblymember Gottfried last month did testify at the first MTA hearing on congestion pricing. He's very strongly in favor of implementing it as soon as possible, and in fact urged the MTA to shorten its timeline. There were a number of delays because of the Trump administration. I won't get into that. He's anxious to see the program get up and running, get up off the ground as soon as possible. Last Tuesday morning, he joined Mayor de Blasio live on New York One to speak in support of the mayor's move to require city workers to be vaccinated against COVID-19. In addition, there are two bills of his that passed both houses of the legislature. They would affect clean water. The first bill, the emerging contaminant bill, will expand testing for dangerous chemicals in New Yorkers' drinking water. It establishes a list of about 36 dangerous contaminants for which testing should occur in all of New York's drinking water systems. John Oliver, interestingly, on his HBO show, had an interesting segment on PFOAs last Sunday, or PFAs, he called them. The second bill on clean water would require heightened scrutiny, or tougher standards, rather, for school drinking water against lead contamination. It would lower the trigger for remediation from 15 parts per billion to 5 parts per billion and require testing every 3 years. We're anxiously waiting to see if the governor will sign those into law. In addition, I should remind people that in November, without weighing in one way or the other, there is a $3 billion Restore Mother Nature Bond Act that will be on the ballot for all voters. Last month, he also rallied and testified at City Hall in favor of Intro 2309. That's a city council bill that would crack down on illegal hotels by creating a mandatory registration system for short-term rentals. It was introduced by Councilmember Ben Kalos. He was the first elected official to testify on behalf of the bill at the City Council Committee's Housing Committee's hearing. He was a big proponent of the choice for the new health commissioner, was quoted in some major newspapers supporting her pick, but was thrilled to welcome Dr. Mary Bassett, who's been tapped for that role by Governor Hochul just last week. And I think I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Cindy.
Hi, everyone. And Mike Stinson, I wanted to say it's been fun working with you. We had a very successful shredding event this past Saturday in partnership with Assemblymember O'Donnell and State Senator Jackson. We have a housing clinic tomorrow night, and the topic is repairs during the pandemic. Attorneys from Take Root Justice will be speaking and answering questions. We actually are partnering with the borough president on that senior fresh food bag program that she spoke about. Our office is working in partnership with hers, and we will be packing up bags and bringing them to different locations tomorrow. And this program will go on every 2 weeks, and it's an abbreviated four-week program this year. We have an upcoming e-waste event in front of the JCC on October 10th from 10 to 2 with Lower East Side Ecology. And we have also been getting a lot of questions about the composting rollout from the Department of Sanitation. And if you guys are interested in what the answers we've gotten from the department, from their outreach coordinator, I'll be happy to share with you. But I think most of the information is on the Department of Sanitation website, including a graph of which how much buy-in each community board district has received. And it looked to me like Manhattan Community Board 7 has the highest in Manhattan, but it's not nearly as high as some of the outer boroughs. So they say that they're going to add new districts each month at the beginning of each month. So I think it's still, looks to me like it might be a little while still before CB7, but we're also encouraging them to include our district. That's it.
Thank you. Question, April, I didn't know if you wanted to speak. I know you put some things in the chat. I know obviously Gail spoke, but if you had something to say, I'll give you an opportunity. Since I see a name, I don't want to call you on the spot, but we'll pause for a second. And the same for Erica Overton. Eric, did you want to say anything? I know again that Linda spoke, but didn't know if you had something to add. And we'll pause for a few. Okay, I think I've looked through, I think that's all the representatives for elected. So if I miss somebody, please speak out. If any of the representatives that I missed, feel free to reach out. Okay, great. Well, we seem to have a little bit of, this seems to be the different section. We've had a bunch of board members raise their hands for the community session, which I haven't traditionally seen. But what I think I'll end up doing is allow everyone to speak a minute, because technically I was about to adjourn the meeting, and so we'll do this, but really this is the community session. So I'll go down the line and ask everyone to be brief as our meeting is coming to an end. Rich, do you have something to add to the community session?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm actually responding to what Michelle brought up way back when. And thank you, Michelle, for bringing it up. And thank you, Gail, if you're still on. The issue of being able to keep either remote or hybrid meetings. I brought it up in steering a few weeks ago, and I'm wondering what the process is for us to have what I'm sure is going to be a painful discussion, but to talk through what our position should be and to pass a resolution. As Michelle said, there's not much time left. And I think that, you know, there are a number of benefits from having meetings, at least hybrid, if not allowing remote meetings. So I think we need to have a discussion. I'm wondering when we can do it.
I'm going to meet with the new committee and we'll kind of come with a process. But clearly it's a conversation that we have to be had, and we'll figure out what's the correct process to having a debate about this. I do know that there's a wide variety of people who have opinions. So I'm sure, as always at CB7, it'll be a robust debate, but we'll put together a process, and it is a conversation that has to happen. I'll meet with the executive committee shortly to discuss it. It's on the agenda. Okay, Lorena.
Oh, I had a question for Gail. I'll call her. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah, it looks like Essie actually dropped off, but I was going to voice my support for what she had to say about the playgrounds. I have seen those same reports on the mommy communication channels, and I've also had my own experiences with that, with certain playgrounds to which we don't go anymore. So anyway, I just would encourage, as you said, folks to go to the Parks Committee, and maybe I'll reach out as well, since it's also still youth related, but it is an issue, and I think we should actually think about addressing it. So.
Thank you. There's two more people, and then we're going to hopefully adjourn the meeting. Paige, then Doug, and that will end it. Thank you. Go, Paige.
Just a question, did we approve the minutes from September 9th?
We did. I think we took sort of a.
Thank you. That's it then.
Okay, Doug, you'll be the last to speak.
Just wanted to actually emphasize what Courtney just said. I was horrified by hearing what St. Williams said, and now with one of our own board members validating that, I think it's not something to wait on. If we have predators in our area, this should be addressed. I'm sorry that SD did not speak directly to Deputy Inspector Yaguchi, but I would volunteer to get on that as quickly as possible. And I agree with you, Stephen, it may not be the place right here and now for solutions, but I just wanted to add emphasis. That is very alarming, and we got to get on top of it right away. Thank you.
Okay, I'll have one more member. Barbara, did you raise your hand to speak?
I just wanted to respond to the same thing. We have Captain Gallagher from Central Park Precinct coming to the Parks meeting on October 18th. So this would be the time to raise your issue with him. If I don't know if it concerns parks in Central Park or Riverside, but you could certainly bring it up with him anyway.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Okay, well, I think we've gotten through our agenda, and I guess I'm looking to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.